Hey, how's it going, Randall?
Are we live?
We're we're rolling. We're not.
We're
live.
rolling?
We're rolling.
We're rolling.
Probably bring that mic down just a little bit, so
Man,
just push it down. You don't have to listen in.
oh really?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when I push things, they break.
Yeah. Well,
So
you know,
I'm very cautious.
I'm not. Too
Man,
worried
I'm doing all right.
about it. Yeah.
This is fun. This is cool. This is like a road trip without the road.
Yeah, I know. When we go on road trips, there's a lot of interesting conversation. Some of it taboo.
Man, stuff that I wouldn't say. Taboo like religious stuff and socially, but I mean not like X-rated taboo.
No.
More like
Heretical.
heretical. So yeah, religiously taboo.
Yeah. So,
Which we're not going to touch on too much today, Lord willing.
Lord willing.
Yeah,
But
so we'll get in trouble with everybody we know.
so why don't you introduce yourself to the podcast?
Oh, yeah, my name's Randal Reeder, and I'm that guy. You know, like Hollywood movies and stuff like that. That guy. It's me being silly.
You've done a little acting.
Yeah, been in quite a bit of movies and TV shows, and I'm kind of that guy. Set out to be that guy. I wanted to be Randall Tex Cobb when I went into the business, and I've kind of become the new Randall Tex Cobb.
For the record, I don't know who that is.
Oh, you youngsters.
I know.
Randall Tex Cobb. Okay, you've seen Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
So he was Leonard Smalls, the biker.
Gotcha.
You see him and everything.
Yeah.
Like you know who that guy is. That's the guy. That
Yeah.
guy. You know, that's Randall Tex Cobb. He was a prize fighter, kickboxer, all around bad dude. I mean, he fought like he fought I'll think of it in a minute, but like a major boxer. You know, like and Larry Holmes or one of those guys. You know, and it was just like he just took this abuse. Like he would get in there and be a prize fighter. He wasn't a great prize fighter per se, but man, he was so tough. They just couldn't knock him out. Like people would want to stop the fight. Kind of like Rocky, you know, where it's just like stop the fight. And he's no. So that was him. And then of course as an actor, he was just in some of my favorite movies and stuff like that. And I wanted to do that. I figured if he can do that, he's not pretty, and he's in movies. You don't have to be pretty to go to Hollywood and be in movies. So my non-pretty self went out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cut you off there. You want to finish your introduction, or you good?
Yeah. I'm Randal Reeder. I'm an actor, producer, now reluctant minister of the gospel because God made me do it. You know, I love the Lord and can't seem to behave like a Christian, but I sure love Him and read the Word and every day and you know, go to church every chance I can. I mean, you know, I'm on the road a lot, but I fellowship all around now because of that. But and then but God told me to start this crazy bar ministry, Saved Savage Ministries. Where we go into bars on Sunday afternoon all around the country now. And we have Saved Savage Sunday services where we take the gospel where other people aren't taking the gospel. And, you know, I mean, there's so much other. I'm such a complicated, you know, you and I are.
Yeah. We've known each other for 7 years.
Yeah. I mean,
2018.
We're now in the same company, you know.
Yeah.
You know, my brother and I founded Americonic.com, which is a streaming platform that, you know, is an alternative to what Hollywood's doing, you know, alternative to Netflix, Amazon Prime, even, you know, Hulu, any of them. They're just, you know, the stuff that they're producing is just, you know, pretty garbage to me and 80% of Americans, I believe. So we started Americonic.com, and you and your amazing wife came into Americonic, a couple of years ago now. And so, you know, so there's all kinds of things. There's all sorts of aspects of my ADD life. But yeah, basically I'm actor, filmmaker, and reluctant minister.
Yeah. How long have you been a Christian?
Well, I could, if I was good at math, I could figure that out real quick. Because I was 20. I was married. I got married when I was right at the end of my 19, like right before I turned 20. I turned 20 in November. I got married in October, and shortly after that, when we would go home, well, we lived in the Houston area, my wife and I, and when we would go to Carthage, we would attend, the church that she grew up in or went to, and my in-laws' church, basically, and the one we got married in. And so one day, one Sunday, we went to church, went to lunch, whatever, and then we drove back to Houston. And we're in Pasadena, living in this apartment. And I told her, we're laying in bed or something. I said, I almost went forward this morning when the pastor said to come forward, but I didn't know if I'd be getting saved or joining the church. I just really wasn't clear. And I remember, the way I remember it is she says, I'm not really sure either. I guess you kind of both, maybe. She's like, but I can tell you how to get saved right now. I said, what? And so she said, say this. So that's how I came to the Lord. And then, now of course I'd gone to church. I would go to church. I loved that.
You were were you raised going to church?
No, we didn't go to church. My aunt would, she was a Methodist, so I'd go visit her church when I was a kid. My cousins were Jehovah's Witnesses, so I would go to the Kingdom Hall a lot with them. And then actually even I've been to some of the big conferences down in the Astro Hall and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I'd go to these like all-day conferences, these Jehovah's Witness conferences. And, if somebody invited me, I always wanted to go to church. I really enjoyed that stuff. I was always searching for God.
Like just for spiritual or social reasons?
No, spiritual reasons. Yeah. No, spiritual reasons. But I didn't hate it socially. You know what I mean? Like, so, a lot of kids like, I don't want to go. Okay, I'll go because my buddy's going. Or a chick, that I like goes to that church. To me, I really always dug it. I would sit in the service and listen and all that kind of stuff. I like that.
So when did that start? Like the yearning for spiritual, searching for God?
Early on. My mom said that, before I remember, like even as a kid, she would, she knew that I would, have a great relationship with God. Like I was always searching for God. Like 2 years old, 3 years old, I was talking about stuff, but I was also talking about past lives and all kinds of crazy stuff we don't need to get into today.
Wow. Reincarnated Randall.
Yeah, that's it. So I would tell her about my family that I had before I was put in her belly and things like that.
How'd your mom take that?
She said, had I not been taught that there's no reincarnation, I'd have believed 100% in reincarnation. She said, you had me convinced there's reincarnation. So it's funny how we can be convinced on something and then because, we're taught something else, we're like, oh, well, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, was she Christian or?
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, we weren't godless. We just were churchless. We didn't go to church. I think, I don't want to go too deep into their personal stuff, but like my mom and my dad both separately, like one in Amarillo and one in LaPorte, Texas, had bad experiences at both of them at an Assembly of God church. So,
Gotcha.
So they didn't hate church or anything like that. They just didn't go. And so I grew up not going. And, so then, but it's funny when that Sunday night, when my wife led me to the Lord, led me through the sinner's prayer, the next morning I woke up and said, we got to find a church. Like it was, I look back, I don't know about you, but I don't think you probably don't have never felt like this, but I look back and go, is it real? Did I really? Like, am I really saved? Like, how could I think this, do this, be this way, or whatever, or have done this and still be saved? And so I doubt it sometimes. So it's like, and then I should make pretty much Like, I know I'm saved because one of the 1,000 times I've repented and said, God, come into my heart, one of them's taken,
them
I'm
stuck.
sure. But I look back and I go, man, that was real, because I woke up the next morning and says, we got to find a church. Like, and I sought out a church, but then God provided me a church, which was the spinoff of an Assembly of God church. Like, the pastor had gotten a divorce, and I think this is his story, it's his testimony, but I believe he'd gotten a divorce and he could no longer be an Assembly of God preacher. So he went non-denominational. I think that's how a lot of the non-denominational stuff's got started, especially in the charismatic world. But anyway, so yeah, so I'd went to work, and within a week, my dad had a plumbing company. I was a pro wrestler at the time, but on the weekends mainly, and then I would work during the week at my father's plumbing company. And he said, "Hey, go take some supplies over to the guys at that little church on Broadway." I was like, "What church on Broadway?" He says, "Oh, it's right across from Sonic." I'm like, "There ain't no church across from Sonic. You mean the old James's Drive-In?" He goes, "Yeah, the old James's." I said, "Oh, okay." Went down there and met this group of people that were working like Jehovah's Witnesses. That's what, or Mormons or anything else. They were just all like, everyone in the congregation was there every day trying to get this church open.
So, like, not Protestants.
Yeah, I just loved it. Like, I loved it. I thought, wow, man, these people are all family. They're so tight. They're working hard, and I guess like the Amish would, with church raisins and things like that. And and honestly, the Southern Baptists, I think, or the Missionary Baptists do that too. Go out there and they'll do that. So, but I had never seen it other than with the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
And
The
I was
community effort.
yeah, and
to
I was
get
like, this
something
is
done.
cool. I like this. And the pastor was into end time prophecy, and I swear the biggest catalyst for me to become a Christian was Nostradamus. The eyes, I used to watch The Eyes That Saw Tomorrow and then read about Nostradamus and all that. My dad was like, "Well, if most of that's in the Bible, you should read Revelation." So I read Revelation and stuff like that. So I was real into that end time prophecy, and Pastor Cochran. Yeah, Pastor Cochran, my first pastor ever, at that church, that they were all working like crazy. I started going up there at night after I would get off work and help, put up sheetrock or whatever. And I just started going there, and my wife started going there. We ended up being youth pastors and children's ministers and all kinds of stuff over the years. And you probably didn't know that.
I did not know you were a youth pastor.
Missionary to Brazil.
Really?
Went to Brazil multiple times. My daughter, Mackenzie, was the first kid from LaPorte Worship Center, that ever went on a mission trip. And she was 2 years old. Carrie wanted to go, wasn't going without her. And so, well, let's let Mackenzie go. And they're like, "Oh, we've never taken kids." Like, that's okay. It's on us, And so we took her to the jungles of Brazil and all that with us. And yeah, it was wild, man.
Is that church still going?
It is. It's called Fields of Harvest now. They moved just because they moved away from LaPorte, and they moved to Baytown, and just LaPorte Worship Center in Baytown just didn't really work. So they changed it to Fields of Harvest, and I was actually there 2 Sundays ago.
Okay.
I go back and visit. I love them so much, and
Is it still the same people?
yeah, almost. I mean, it's like when I walk in, it's just a family reunion every time I walk in, and they had Scott Toth, the Toth family, that were the Brazilian people that we would go down there and build churches with and schools and all that kind of stuff. They were in town, so I had it in my calendar that I have to be there. So I drove all night to get there, just about, to get there to be at that church and see them, and it was amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. Rolled up with some Saved Savages. So that was kind of interesting, because they're like, "Wow, look what he's doing now," So yeah, it's pretty cool. Had some visitors that don't have a church that rolled up with us. It was a blessing, man. It was amazing. But yeah, anyway, that's how. Yeah.
And where'd you go from there?
In your
walk with God.
Oh, my stumble with God.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, my stumble. I mean, the thing was, so at that time, I was, I'm like, him had 3 jobs, man. You know what I mean? Like, I probably had 4 jobs. I mean, back then, because I was, my mission in life was to get rich, so I was selling insurance for like Primerica Financial Services, trying to switch people out of whole life policies into term and you know, um, mutual funds and stuff like that, all that kind of stuff. And so I was doing that on the side. I was wrestling on the side. Um, Gosh, I've had every hat, I swear. Like, I mean, I've done every, well, not every, but sometimes I think I've done every multi-level marketing thing you can do. I mean, be it like phone cards, gold coins, just, music, like, all of that kind of stuff. I've just always been trying to do that. While I was a pro wrestler, while I was acting, but I was in Texas, so it was like, I didn't take the deal to go to WWE or WWF back then. I kind of could have went there or WCW at one point, and I quit wrestling instead because I felt like the Lord, told me to, or I quit for the Lord. Let me put it that way, and my family, because my wife then could not have handled me being gone 3 to 100 days a year. Just there's no way that woman could not have handled it, and I wasn't ready to come home and not have kids, all that. So. And then I just also didn't. There was no way I could live a Christian life at that point. Walk as a Christian in that business, especially then. It was.
Well, why is that?
It was pre Kurt Angle, and like when it was like when you started probably seeing pro wrestling, it was different. Like it was more professional. Handled more professionally. I'm sure it was pretty debaucherous. I'm sure it's still debaucherous, but it's different than when it was in the early '90s, man. It was just, there were guys in the locker room that I won't mention their name that'll just walk up and be like, if you're the new guy, they'll hand you a handful of pills and you either take it or you're blackballed.
Like juice or like
No,
pain drugs? Or
oh no, like just like pills, narcotics, just stuff just
a grab bag.
to see if it's like either take a chance on ODing or you're not cool in the locker room.
Well, they probably don't do that anymore with the fentanyl.
Well, and again, things have changed. I mean, we're talking about, this was early '90s, late '80s, all that. I mean, it was different. Like those guys are all dead or retired or or whatever. And now, these younger, I remember. I feel like I wasn't in the locker room at that time, but I feel like it kind of changed. With you take the Shawn Michaels and all those guys got older and retired, became Christian, things like that, versus and then you have these Christian and Edge and all these younger guys coming in that seem like they were more professional, because you got the Hardys and they've had their problems, but everybody has their problems. I mean, painkillers lead to one thing, lead to another, so but I just young in my faith, I still look back. There's no way I would have been divorced, and then I would have got sucked into all the stuff at that point. You definitely ain't going to church because you ain't got, you don't have all that. Now I don't know. I mean, it'd be kind of different now. I mean, there's such a technical world. You got church and the Bible apps and all kinds of stuff that really didn't exist in the '90s. I know you've probably never experienced
I grew
life without
up
an internet.
No, I grew up in the pre-internet era. I'm on the edge of that. I'm a millennial.
Yeah,
not
true.
a Gen Z.
That's
so
true.
like 1988.
Yeah,
so I had a good, and we were pretty conservative Christians, so we didn't get the internet until early 2000s.
right.
And even then, it was highly restrictive.
Sure.
So and then it was dial-up as well.
Yeah, man, it's wow.
So
what would our world be like if we could go back to them days?
Probably more peaceful.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
We would know less, but
Yeah.
some knowledge isn't good.
Yeah.
So So when you started wrestling, like how quickly did you get exposed to like that negative side, the debaucherous side?
Oh, instantly.
Instantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was
But this is before
even
before
in
you
the,
got saved.
yeah,
Though.
even in the lower ranks, it's just like it's guys that had been there, like has been, so to speak. Lord forgive me, I don't mean to say that about, but when you're over your prime, so you're working with guys that that you've seen growing up, but they're like, they're debaucherous, I mean, they've been there, done that, and then now they're not there. And so it was, I don't know, it was just, it's disgusting,
Like, is
It's
that how you
disgusting
felt at the
world.
time? Or like,
Yeah,
so
totally.
just like, I'm not into this.
Oh, as a Christian, it was horrible. Like, I was just like, oh my God, this is just, you sit in your corner and you try not to.
Yeah.
And that's in that business, that is not the way it's done. That you sit in your corner and
You got to participate.
yeah, you need to be. It's you got to be a brother. You got to be a brother. And if you're not a brother, then you're not a brother. So, yeah. So it's kind of, it was tough, but I mean, what I had going for me was that, in fact, and I caught the bad end of that because I wasn't a brother, but I was 6'8", 320 pounds, and
You had talent.
extremely athletic. Like, I mean, I walked the top rope without touching anybody, like I had balance. I would enter the ring just jumping over the top rope, just grab and just jump over. And in fact, they would restrict me a lot and say, you can't do this. You can't be doing the stuff that the high flyers do, or there's no way the high flyers can beat you, and so I wouldn't even. So then I had to kind of So I had to kind of just switch gears and just be this brute that couldn't move, and they let me do a high kick to somebody's face, and that's about it, and which sucked because I never got to show, like I did a move that I still to this day never have seen anybody do it. I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but I've never seen it, and that's where I would berserker slam. I'd body slam somebody, but it's kind of like this chest to chest, like the berserker used to do. And I'd body slam somebody in the middle of the ring, and then I would get up and I would climb to the top of the rope in the corners, and I would kind of do the whole, bless you, as they're getting up, and then I would walk out to the middle of the rope and then do a flying clothesline off of the middle of the rope. I've still never seen anybody do it, even in Japan.
Is this on video somewhere? I'd like to see this.
Yeah, it's in my reel somewhere. It's a quick glimpse. I only got to do it one time on TV, and I put it in every reel because I've never seen anybody do it. Even in Mexico or Japan, I've just never seen it.
What was your weight?
Not
at the
to
time?
say it. I was like 320.
320.
Yeah.
That's
That's
a lot of meat hitting you.
Yeah, I was 19, probably 19 years old.
How big was the guy you were?
Whoever. I mean, I think I did that one to Jerry Lynn, who went on to be he's a legend, for real wrestling fans. He's been in a mask a lot, but he's also was big at ECW. And I think I did that one to Jerry Lynn in a mask. But he's not a big guy, but he's solid. And it would be to somebody my size, anybody's size.
But I mean, you are pulling it to some extent.
Of course.
Yeah,
well, I mean, a clothesline, especially back in the day, but anytime a clothesline doesn't pull as much as you think. You kind of drive through. Actually, you don't pull a clothesline really. The trick to not getting killed on a clothesline is taking the clothesline. So, like for once, since I was wrestling this guy, the Giant Warrior, he dressed like the Ultimate Warrior, but he was 7 foot tall. And, he shot me in and said, duck the clothesline. And I didn't duck the clothesline. And it's as close to being knocked out as I've ever been in my life. Like he just swung and he just drove all the way through. And so his hand ends up, on the way down, just like boom, dragging across my jaw. And I was, it rung my bell. Like it took me, like I was like a boxer where you're like stumbling and you're kind of like getting up real slow, and I got up and was able to finish up. But
so you're not taking head hits as much. You're like, it's more your physical body that takes the beating.
Yeah. So but the whole point is like he clotheslined me for real, but he just did the same thing that he always does. Only I didn't sell it. So if I shoot you in, you shoot me in for a clothesline, you're going to clothesline me for real.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm going to
Flop
like,
backwards.
I'm going to hit you loose and throw my legs up and let you just plant me into the mat. And, of course you can clothesline somebody harder, you can, and that happens a lot, that's, like somebody famous for that, I think, is Bradshaw, who was actually in the same matches and dressing room as I was back at Global. But Justin Hawk Bradshaw back then, and then he went on to be Bradshaw at WWF, and him and Ron Simmons would tune people up who weren't acting right or working right or selling right or whatever. If you get a lot of times people that they'd come in and they'd oh no, and it's like they see that their tag team is wrestling, or just them individually is wrestling Bradshaw or Ron Simmons, and they're about to get their completely annihilated, and that's what it would. It's like, hey, this is your punishment. I mean,
his job was to like, keep people
they
in
told
line?
like they would say, it's like if you didn't act right.
This guy's getting out of line, so we're going to put
then
him up
we're
against
going to book
Bradshaw.
you up against the Acolytes and or whatever they were at that time. And
If you didn't take a handful of pills.
Well, no,
You weren't there yet.
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't. It was like if you weren't selling properly, or if you weren't doing what you were told.
I got you. If you weren't performing.
Then you weren't performing right. They would show you how. And even when I got in the business, it was different than it is now. I mean, now it's a little more woke. I'm sure. I'm not there, but I'm sure it is. I've heard stories. But like, I broke in under Ivan Putski, and his thing is like the, basically, if I give you a couple of punches and you don't sell them properly, I'm going to teach you how to sell it. And that would be, I'm going to knock you out in the middle of the ring, or if you don't go out, it's just because you're pretty tough, and that's the way I was taught. That's why I was brought in. It's like, hey, give them a chance to sell, bam. Oh, hey, sell for me. Bam. Hey, sell for me. Bam. Oh. Uh-oh. Ring match is over. Sorry. My bad.
KO.
So, yeah. So,
Did you ever have to do that to anyone? Like you force people to sell? And
Yeah. Because more often than you would think, because, I don't know, you go into a new organization and people are like testing you, and then sometimes people would do it just to see if you would do it. Like some workers like that. Some workers will, not sell just to see if you'll stiff them, and they're like, all right, I like you, kid, and then it's light as a feather the rest of the match. So the old timers.
Yeah.
I mean, old timers are mean, dude. Like it's different. Like you can look into documentaries and stuff. You'll see that, Hogan was getting a big push, or he came in and he just looked like an Adonis and all this or whatever. So they just broke his leg to see if he would even come back after. Like somebody just boom, broke his leg or I think his leg, but on purpose, snapped him just to see if he'd come back. Because if he won't come back, then we don't want him. And so it was kind of like that back in. That's why I say that it was back in the day, and I didn't mind that part, the physical brutality. I minded the debauchery.
Yeah.
And I've went on to do way more debaucherous stuff than probably then, but in my stumble with God.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of so. When I guess back to what I don't remember what you had asked, but basically what happened was because I was 6'8" and 320 pounds. I still got a push, even though I wasn't a brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so the brothers hated me, like the old timers. They were just so brutal. Like I remember this one time I had, I think I had Eddie Gilbert. I don't know. I had somebody up on like in a backbreaker, So I was like, their back is facing down, and I'm just like jumping up and down, and that was the finish, And then so-and-so was going to come in and give me a chair, and then I was going to shake it off, not even stop. And because my gimmick was I couldn't stop. I was a maniac until Bruce Pritchard would put his towel over my head. That was my manager. He was Brother Love and all that in WWF. So, and, so dude kept giving me a chair, but he was turning it around the wrong side, and he just whack, destroying the chair. The chair was unusable after like 4 chairs. And then I'm like, Bruce, get over here and put the towel on my head. I'm going to get some, because I was like, they were just, and so my chest and stomach the next day looked like this shirt. It was just black and blue and whelped and bleeding and like, so they were just, and Bruce was probably in it. I don't know. Sorry, Bruce, if you weren't, but he literally, he was probably like, yeah, you're right. Let's show this kid. He's getting too big of a push. He doesn't deserve this big of a push. Yeah. So okay, I'll linger in the corner while y'all just destroy him. So, but that's just kind of it. That's paying your dues in a way. Yep. I never begrudged that. Like the physical stuff just didn't bother me. Knocking somebody out or getting knocked out, if that be the case. I mean, never really had that happen, but.
So as a Christian, how do you feel about the display of violence? I mean, because obviously wrestling has a debauchery in the background, but what's presented to the public, like just the display of violence, the gladiator nature of it.
Yeah. With it's tough.
As someone who has said they want to start a wrestling company in the future.
For me, that's a tough one because I'm a Saved Savage. I mean, I'm just not the normal Christian. I'm for it. I think, especially pro wrestling, the good versus evil,
the storytelling.
I can tell you that, that our wrestling company will be different, but it'll be more like the older stuff. It'll be just like Americanic. What does America want to do? My motto with Americanic is, my motto. I'm not saying yours and everyone, but to me, it's just I just want to rewind Hollywood 40 years. I want to go back to those 70s and 80s, and although I've been watching some of them older movies, I was like, ooh, wow.
Yeah, no, you'll notice some things.
I didn't notice.
There's some Clint Eastwood movies where I
didn't notice the GD and as much.
Well, we watched. Was it High Plains? No, what's that?
High Plains Drifter.
Yeah, High Plains Drifter. Yeah. It's like there's a full-on rape scene in there that's like just condoned, and we're like,
yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it's weird, man. Like, I don't know. We were all under such a spell until we woke up.
I wasn't there, so
I know, but like, but so many of us, maybe not you because you've kind of been raised. I don't know, so correctly in my. I know you may not think so, but I mean, to me, I just look at it.
Well, I mean, I was raised in the church.
So picturesque, to me. Just so withdrawn from the world or whatever.
Sheltered.
Yeah.
Do you want to use that term? Sheltered.
I mean, that's what you use it. I mean, I would say separate. I'd say be ye separate.
I feel like
your dad probably said be ye separate.
I feel like I got exposed. I got exposed to the world at the right time. We started watching movies a lot more when I was 12 or so.
Right.
And playing video games. So it's like I got I'm not like ultra sheltered, but I'm still.
Yeah, and I'm like I don't begrudge my childhood at all, but at the same time, like we were we're the first one of my friends to have a VCR, so my dad went and got a VCR really soon, and so we rented videos all the time, and then we were one of the first to get the cable box, with HBO and I want my MTV and all that. So, and that was all when I was like 11 or 12 or 10 to 12, whatever.
Get the tube TV.
What's that?
The tube TV. I saw a thing the other day that the I don't know if this is true, but the largest tube TV ever built was like 42 inches. Oh, wow. Only 42 inches.
You know what ours was?
And it was like $40,000.
Ours was a projector.
Could be wrong. Yeah, so if you had a projection.
Ours was like you folded this like cabinet out.
Yeah.
And you pulled it out like a drawer, and then it would project onto the screen that was kind of slightly tilted.
Yeah.
So we had like a big screen.
Yeah, you could do bigger.
But it'd probably a 42 or 50 inch or something, about whatever that is. 46 inch. They lie about that. By the way, I don't know. Because I think they do it across.
It's diagonal. Yeah. No, it's always measured diagonally.
You're like, this ain't no 60 inch.
Yeah, it's not horizontal.
So But yeah, so.
But yeah, back in the day, the only way you could have a big screen, it was a projector or one of those projector TVs where you had the Fresnel lens that would project onto it.
Well, we had one of those too. Like the first one we had was that drawer type that would project onto the screen. And then the next one we had, when that one went out, was like a Fresnel lens type of a.
You know, you can take those Fresnel lenses now and melt rocks with them and stuff. Like
it's
a big magnifying glass.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I've seen them. I've seen it done. I haven't done it yet, but
survival.
Yeah, exactly. Tips. Yeah, except it's a big lens that you would.
You got to find a way to mount it.
I'm gonna carry this big Fresnel lens around with me.
No, you have to have a mounting.
It's a big your backpack's this big.
Yeah, it's more industrial. Like if you're gonna it's not like survival in the woods. It's like apocalyptic survival tool.
Yeah, totally.
You need to melt some rocks or something.
I guess you could like get iron ore out of them or something. Yeah, I don't know.
So where'd you go from there? How'd you get out of wrestling?
Well, I quit wrestling many times. So I quit it several times because there's no 12-step program to quit wrestling. And in fact, if Vince McMahon wouldn't call me anyway because he's out, but I don't think they let him in his own business anymore. Or he might have sold out, but I don't know. But anyway, if I got a chance, somebody called and said, "Hey man, we'll pay you $20,000 a week to come to Japan." I was like,
be tempting.
I mean, I could go get tuned up. I'm a carpenter, Maybe I could survive it. Maybe I wouldn't die of another stroke in the ring, because it would definitely be tempting. I don't know if I wouldn't do it. I would not do it.
Yeah.
I swear.
Got too many other responsibilities.
But it would be very tempting. And it's probably why I've waited this long to start a wrestling company. I mean, we've almost done it a few times.
Are you going to be in there?
No.
Or are you going to be the Vince McMahon?
No.
Like get in the ring.
No. I don't
do some crazy stuff.
I hope that nobody even knows I have it.
Okay. So you're going to be like the hidden hand.
I'm sure I'll end up somehow having to do something that I don't want to do in it because that's what life is, right?
Like how do you mean?
Well, I mean, it's like, no, I'm going to start this and I'm going to be behind the scenes.
But when you say you like something you may not want to do.
Well, just, whatever. I mean, being the Vince McMahon, God, I hope not. But if everybody says, well, you've got the best score on IMDb, you got to do that, take one for the team, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think I'm too tall for that. Vince McMahon was too big for that.
Well, that was part of it. I mean, he was bulked out. And
he was too big to be that, because you can't.
It kind of worked.
Because you make everybody else look small, Not every wrestler's big.
But I think that was his whole thing. Like he was one of the wrestlers in a way. Like he was the boss who could beat you up,
right? Yeah,
and hold his own.
Yeah.
But then he was always the heel,
right? Yeah.
So
So
I mean, it clearly was all an act. Like obviously, to some extent.
Yeah.
It was part of the game.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, it's the whole kayfabe years. I was at the end of the kayfabe years when you had to just hide it completely, and it was like, oh my gosh. But it was so crazy because people would go, "Man, is it fake or is it real?" I was like, "Dude, did you see that guy? Did you see me hit that guy 20 times in the face a little while ago?" Yeah. You're asking that? I mean, have you ever hit anybody 20 times? Like, if I hit somebody twice in the face, they have to go get stitched up. There's no way.
4 times there's brain injuries.
4 times it's and my hands broke and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no.
It's still fake. Real from the standpoint people get injured.
It is 100%.
A lot of pain and suffering for sure.
You hurt people in those matches, and they hurt you.
It's just consensual.
The goal is to not.
It's consensual.
Injure one another. Does it hurt getting body slammed on concrete? Yeah, there's no way that it doesn't hurt getting body slammed on a ring, by the way. I mean, a ring's not like a mattress. People go, oh, it's like a mattress. No.
It's a little bounce.
It's literally, I think the ring does that more to save the ring You know, because I've wrestled in boxing rings that don't have any give, and you know, I mean,
So the
it
rings
hurts
just were-
slightly less in a wrestling ring than a boxing ring, but not much. I mean, they put padding down and plywood, and it's just the difference is the grids underneath it are really supported, and whereas like you know, the wrestling ring, the frames, you know, like these trusses go all the way across, and then these other trusses go under, you know, 6 feet apart, and they have springs, but the springs are to like lift it up, so there is some give, but it's not like there's springs like under a mattress, you know. So
It's not puffy.
no, no, it sucks. And if you do not exhale, you break ribs and you break shoulders and stuff like that. Like you have to relax when you get body. I mean, that's how, like I re-broke my ribs like probably 3 or 4 times in a match.
How many injuries have you had?
Oh, I don't know.
Wrestling.
I don't know. I don't even know. And even if I remembered them, I wouldn't know because when I quit wrestling at 29, the last time I quit wrestling, like final, like, well, I was going to say I haven't been back at all, but maybe I did like a charity event or something. But I really quit the business when I was 29 and, 29, 30. Right there. I told my first wife, I said, look, if I haven't made it to be rich and famous by the time I'm 30, I will quit and get a real job. So I quit a little early because I was working for Shawn Michaels down in San Antonio for like 2 years, grooming his kids. Like, you know, he had a school, so I would work with his kids. Me and a few other veterans would give them their first match and give them, you know, run an angle with them, give them a bunch of matches and things like that. And then the deal is that me and Wayne Knight, my tag team partner and best friend, we were going to go with those kids to WWF or WCW or wherever they went to keep them from getting destroyed. Because, you know, not everybody, like, especially if they went to WCW, a lot of people hated Shawn anyway in the business, but in WWF, there would be some protection, you know. But at WCW, it would have just been like, kill the kids. And so anyway, that was kind of the deal, you know. Shawn had told us, and then WCW went under whatever reason, and Vince bought WCW, and he called in the note at ECW or whatever. I don't know all the details. I suspect I know some of the deals, but basically, ECW shut down, WCW shut down. Vince McMahon rolled all of that into WWF or WWE maybe at that time. I think it was before WWE, and then if you didn't work for Vince McMahon, then you went to Japan. So at that point, you know, Wayne and I had a backup plan. It's like, hey, we're either going with the kids or we're going to Japan because we had a gimmick called the Fu Man Crew, and Sho Funaki and some people that we worked with that were Japanese were going to hook us up in Japan. And
So was it like All Americans wrestling in Japan, or was it
no,
like
it's
a mixture?
It's a mixture. But Japan,
like, so is it like sumo wrestlers? Former sumo,
no. It's totally pro wrestling. I mean, a lot of back then, you know, there was people like Ken Shamrock, that were doing UFC and wrestling, and you know, there were people that crossed over because it's very simple. Shoot fighting and wrestling is not that dissimilar. It's just for real. You kind of use, you know, this is early UFC days, you know, and all that, or mixed martial arts days. So, but it wasn't uncommon to be a pro wrestler in Japan, but also jump over and do, what's that organization that's real, you know, or real-ish, you know. So, but Japan is wild like that. Like, it's not really like here where, like, Japan, you could go over there and you know, it was just different. Even the wrestling, even pro wrestling is rough there. Like, I know guys that went over to Japan on their first tour and came back 3 days into the tour and said, "Nuh-uh, F this, I'm gone." Because they were just getting abused.
So was there less of the kayfabe?
It's a respect thing. I mean, they work tight or stiff. They work stiff. I mean, they lay everything in, which especially didn't bother me at all. I was made for Japan. I should have went to Japan. I've been in magazines in Japan and newspaper articles on Japan. It's just a crying ass shame, as they would say, that I didn't go to Japan. You know, because I would have. They loved big guys, big Americans. They loved big Americans.
Is the money good too?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd have been making 10 or 20,000 a week back then. But could my marriage have held up?
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's wild.
Well,
and
did your marriage hold up?
No,
anyway?
it didn't. It didn't anyway. But which that when you look back and go, God, all the stuff I turned down for. But it was. It was also debaucherous over there, because I'm not really gonna say it. The people that run the business over there are it's almost a criminal enterprise.
Sure, it's not the Yakuza who runs it.
I don't know, but anyway, so I don't know who runs it over there. Y'all can look it up, Google it. It's worth a Google. But anyway, I mean, they treated you right, but their version of treating you right would be, it's like, oh, take you to this massage parlor. And you don't really have the option of saying no. What if they take you somewhere? It's
a happy ending whether you like it or not.
Well, and also you just don't say, oh no, I'm good. They're like, no, this is a gift.
Yeah.
So
not being a brother was not an option.
No, you a brother of you over there.
Yeah. Or we take you out back and.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the
or
consequences, but you wouldn't take a chance. I mean, that's the whole thing. So it's like, so
yeah.
So that was always a hesitation for myself and Wayne actually about Japan. But we're like, well, if nothing else, we gotta, we're not gonna walk when we're old. We need to at least have the bank account to support us. You know. And that was kind of our plan, was to go to Japan. And that's probably my only regret is I didn't go to Japan. I don't really regret not going to WWF and WCW. I regret not going to Japan just because, not the happy endings, but just the, and it's funny. It was a Christian podcast and we were talking about happy endings. Lord forgive us.
I mean, you know the name of the
podcast.
I
know, so. Man. Christian's talking about shit. So anyway, I mean, it was.
We're not condoning it. We're not saying it's a good thing.
But it's but just that experience, bro, to wrestle in a culture like that you're the number 2 most famous. You could be the number 2 most famous person in the country.
And I'm sure the praise from the fans too.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane.
That has to go to your ego.
Yeah,
it's
insane. The money's crazy. You're a god there, and so that would have been awesome. I regret, that, but also probably glad.
Say, do you really regret that?
On one hand, my flesh goes, oh man, I wish I could have done that, and then, my inner, my Christian says, no, son, it's a good time. It's
that'd be a whole other pile of things you need forgiveness for.
Man, I'm telling you, so it was, but yeah, I mean, that's, so I did that from I guess 89 to, I think from 89 to 99, basically, maybe a little bit more, maybe 90, but maybe 90. So 11 years, but off and on, because I was also wrestling. I was also acting back then.
How'd you transition into acting?
I was doing TV in Dallas at Global Wrestling Federation, which was on ESPN. In the 90s, every day at 3:00 or something like that. And so that's where I was wrestling and getting the push and all that stuff. And there was an audition I found out about. And it's so funny because my grandmother told me about it for this movie. And it was at a Katie Studios in Dallas, Texas. And so I'm like, oh, well, I'll just go to KD and do this audition. And I went there, and all these other wrestlers, it was for a sumo wrestler, like an American sumo wrestler was the audition for, as a lead type of thing. And I show up, and I'm like, I can't believe none of these people told me about this audition. These sorry sons. Of course, I never told them either. So it's kind of funny. I did hear last minute, but yeah, I kind of felt like I was left out. Like, oh, they didn't want me to go audition. Cutthroat business. And so anyway, I auditioned there. And when everybody else just left, everybody'd finish up and walk out. And I went to the front and I said, "Hey, what is this KD Studios? Oh, we do acting classes and all this kind of stuff." And I said, "Really?" It's like I started asking all these questions. Is you want to take a tour? I'll just give you a tour. Give me 15 minutes. I'll give you a tour. I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." So he walks me around and talking about it. And there's it's like walls with pictures of, I don't know, Kevin Costner or all these, whatever. I think I saw Kevin Costner, but definitely people teaching classes and stuff like that. I was like, "Oh, this is cool, man." And I said, "Tell me, how does it work?" He said, "Oh, it's a 3-month program, 4-month program or something." I was like, "Oh, I can't do that." So, well, that sucks. I'd like to do that, but I can't commit to something like that. He goes, "Well, we do weekend workshops too." I said, "No, that could work out." And he said, "I'll put you on the mailing list." So, then I got like a piece of mail in the mail, not an email. And it
snail
was
mail.
The snail mail. And
Which is all special now when you actually get a piece of mail.
I know.
Like you see emails and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So
now it was, and it was, an invitation to, they had a guy named Cliff Osmond that would come in. He was a Hollywood character actor, been in just hundreds and hundreds of movies and TV shows, and very, he was Armand Arslande's personal acting coach. And so I said, yeah. So I signed up. It's like $120 or something, whatever. I don't remember what it was, but then then the first night I remember I went from I finished up at the gosh, whatever the Coliseum was there, I forgot, but Sportatorium in Dallas, filming TV, and I just ran out probably without a shower or anything, just put on clothes, and I had to make it over to the acting class, that started on Friday night. You did like a cold read, like an audition almost. So you get you do the class and talk about acting and all that. And he had me from day one. He had a chalkboard and he writes acting. Like, that's what we do, right? And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm just like, I'm just starting, but yeah, sure, it sounds good. And he goes, scribbles it out. He said, "It's a crappy name for what we do." And he says, "Living." He said, "That's what we do. If you're acting, the audience is going to see right through it." And I was just like, "Oh, that's so cool and so simple."
Blown away.
So he hands out scripts, like sides. And he says, "Okay, go out in the hall and find your partner, whoever has the other one. And you got 15 minutes, and then come back in, and I want y'all to go through these in front of the class." I was like, "Well, that's weird." And I suck at reading, so it's like literally maybe read the whole thing, the whole 2 pages or 3 pages in that 15 minutes. And so I go out there, I find my partner, and we go through it. And I think we went through it once or something. And we go back in, and I don't even think you found your partner. I think you actually walk. He said, I don't even think you found your partner. I think you just went out and learned your lines and come back, and you're like, "Oh, this is my partner. This is my reading partner," And anyway, we finished it, and he said, he kind of gives them their notes, and he looks at me, he goes, "There's just too damn much TV anymore, huh?" I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Too much TV." I'm like, I guess. He says, "How long you been acting?" And I said, 30 minutes, And he says, "Well, you're a natural." And I loved watching it. He says, "But you have a reading disability or something, because you suck at that, I said, "Yeah, I'm like dyslexic, probably. I've never been checked, but probably, and dyslexic." I was just joking. But anyway, and I was blown away that he could tell that I didn't just suck, that I was struggling with the words. he said, that's okay because tomorrow you're memorizing it, and then we're going to shoot it Sunday, and you'll have it memorized. And so don't get discouraged. You're a natural. I said, okay, cool. So I tell people when they go, oh, I want to be an actor, I said, go to an acting class, take an acting class, pay for one, a professional acting class. You're going to go through the audition, the working with the director, and then the filming, and if they don't say you're a natural, then run. Because I was a natural and I wished I'd have run.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I did that, and that's how I got into acting. I acting classes, at least everyone's I've ever been in, you kind of get to know everybody, over the time. And a lot of the same people did the workshop every month when he would come in, Cliff. So I studied with him for a couple of years. And then I studied with him when I moved to L.A. also, and the first time. And he was, and so that's where I would talk to people, and they're like, "Oh man, you're really good. Do you have an agent?" I'm like, "No, I don't even know how to get an agent." And they're like, "Oh, well here, you're in Houston, these are the top three, Pastor Bosby and so and so and actors, etc." I would call all of them, or I would go see all of them. So I did, and the first one to call me back was Actors, Etc. So I went with the first one because they seemed excited. And so I had an agent and then went out on some auditions and booked some auditions and got some Walker, Texas Rangers and things like that. And the first year I started acting, I was SAG eligible, and
okay,
it was fairly easy for me, because I was such a niche. There was only
how many big guys?
There was 5 of us. There was 5 of us that would audition against me. Like 4 others would audition against me.
So you just saw the same 4 guys every single time?
Yeah. Really only 3 of us were big. And 3 of us were big. And one of them was a wrestler that I helped get in. Jerry Me. And he wasn't a great actor, he wasn't, but we worked together on some stuff, and he was good. He was okay. He didn't take acting classes. He didn't really, he was just kind of the big guy, and he was content with that. Sorry, Jerry. That's just the way I saw it. If you see this, but call me. I miss you. Anyway, and then there was Dave Efron, who had moved here from Hollywood, and he lived in the Houston area. He moved from Hollywood. Who was a Christian. He and I used to go to Promise Keepers together. We became great friends, and he was he would get some of I'd see him at auditions, but sometimes he would just book roles that I didn't get an audition for because he was a stunt guy. So, and he's been in hundreds of movies, very recognizable even, to me. And he had, so basically he would, I felt like if the role called for a bigger actor, I'd get some of the guest stars and, where there's multiple pages of dialogue, and then Dave would get the very stunty stuff, that's the way it seemed to me looking back on it. But we all knew each other. So we were the usual suspects. It was cool.
Yeah. You didn't transition into stunts?
I did. Everything I did was a stunt role first time.
Sure.
Walker,
but being like a full-blown, like a stunt double.
No.
Who are you going to double for?
Who am I going to double?
Yeah,
it was kind of weird. So even Dave didn't get to double anybody. He just got stunt roles. And that's very difficult. So the reason he was able to do that, and I probably would have done that back then, especially because I loved that stunt stuff, getting hit by a truck and things like that. Oh, it's so fun. And you got stunt pay. So you're getting paid $700 a day as an actor or something
in the early 90s.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I'm making $700 a day, and then I get hit by a truck and they pay me an extra $1,000. It's awesome, So, but the thing is the stunt coordinators, Texas had a scene, but really Walker Texas Ranger was the only major thing going, other than some independent films. So I would get to do some stunt stuff there. But again, I would be a stunt actor. Whereas Dave Efron had really came in. It's his story, his testimony. I don't really know for sure, but it seems like, if I remember correctly, he had really come up through the stunts. So he was friends with all the stunt guys, and then became more of a stunt actor. And really if you look at a lot of the movies, man, you see these guys. You're like, oh, I've seen that guy, and like he's always a DEA or like a Delta guy with like the big bald guy with the black beard, and it's like, oh, he's a Delta guy. He was in that movie, and they have lines, but they're it's I don't know them, so it's like, okay, if I don't know them, it's because they don't really audition much. They're pretty much just the stunt coordinator comes in and says, oh yeah, I got everybody in the crew, everybody in this unit except this guy and this guy and this guy. You need to go audition those, or the director says, I want this guy to be an actor, this guy to be an actor, and you can bring in the other guys. Well, you remember with Sons of Thunder,
yeah,
Sam brought in some of the stunt guys,
yeah.
Because he was a director and a stunt coordinator.
And they get hit in the head with a rubber hammer or something like that. But they weren't, I don't think any of them even had lines.
Yeah, but some of them could have. We just didn't have it written in that way. I mean, they were cartel guys and stuff like that.
They're wearing masks, so you use them multiple times.
And, exactly. Yeah. But, I mean, they were getting paid just like an actor. I mean, they got paid more on that one, I think. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure they got paid more because they're stunt guys. They got closer to real pay, whereas we were low budget, so
ultra low budget,
low budget. So people were making $50 or $100 a day.
It was $125.
Yeah, it was crazy cheap. It's crazy cheap, but yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it, and I just kind of gravitated towards the acting. I was pretty good at it. I don't suck as an actor. I don't think I'm the greatest actor of all time. I might be one of the better big guys. I might be, I kind of thought about it for a while, because this look is, that's what I set out to do. And I kind of, okay, I can be like this. But at one point I thought about just cutting my beard into normal, growing my hair out with a horseshoe, just normal, and just trying to be the next John Goodman.
Do you still have hair, or is it just...
Man, it is my hairline is way back. Like, it's barely a horseshoe. It's like this, But, I thought about, like, I could just look more normal and wear sleeves and kind of be a John Goodman. But I don't know if it'd work. I mean, I'm 6'7", 6'6.5". Each year I shrink. I was at 6'8", legit barefooted, and now I'm like 6'6.5".
Actors tend to be shorter.
Even John Goodman, who I would try to be the next John Goodman. I mean, because that'd be my hero as an actor, probably. I mean, he's probably 6'4" or 6'3" or something. He's not my height.
That's still tall for him. I mean, there's
very
a
tall,
lot of tall,
very
actors,
tall.
But like 6'4" is like the upper end.
But me, I look like a giant on set.
How tall is The Rock?
Oh, he's probably 6'2",
yeah,
something like that. I mean, that's what I don't know, but I don't think I ever met him and walked by him, and he wasn't. It wasn't like, oh.
Well, there's that picture of him next to Shaq, and Shaq's like a giant.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So people ask me all the time, like, why weren't you on Sons of Anarchy? And a producer I was doing a Castle, a TV show Castle. And I did a little guest star on there, and one of the producers was like, "Hey, man, why didn't we ever have you on Sons of Anarchy?" Because he was a producer, and he was a producer of Sons of Anarchy. And I was like, "Well, that's a question I've asked." He goes, "You know what? As soon as I said it, I knew what the problem was." And I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Dude, you would have dwarfed everybody."
Yeah, Ron Perlman, the big guy on the show.
Yeah. Well, or even worse than that, what's his name that played Opie? He was their big enforcer guy, and my brother was all like, "Man, you should have been on Sons of Anarchy. You should have been on Sons of Anarchy." And then one year, I was riding me and oh man, what's his name? The Scottish guy. Or the guy that's...
I don't know his name.
Oh,
but I know who you're talking about.
I know his name because I love him.
Yeah.
And anyway, we were riding, leading the pack from Stubbs Harley Davidson down to the Lone Star Rally on bikes. So anyway, we were we were heading, we were riding with the pack and when we got there, we were at this party that, Jim Beam was throwing for the Devil's Cut, release. And so some of the other Sons of Anarchy guys were there, and including that guy who played Opie, which I know his name. He's such a great actor. Anyway, he was there, and so we're all standing close to each other. We're all talking or whatever, and my brother was like, "Dude, that's why you weren't on Sons of Anarchy. You made that guy look small."
Yeah, you'd have to come in like as a specific role, like the other club's bruiser or something.
Had I met, like, I guarantee you, had I met, what is my brain? The showrunner. Had I met, man, now you can't release this. I'm gonna look. Now he'll never hire me.
Clip that one part out.
Yeah, the showrunner.
Got a phone right there.
But had I met him at a party or something, an event or whatever, there's a good chance he would have said, "Dude, I got to have you on there. I'm going to write a role for you," and then, that would have changed my whole life. But, that also could have been horrible for me because my stumble with God was bad enough without major success.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Only imagine.
Like, Sons, really? There we go. Man, I'm totally about to get so mad. You're going to see me get so mad because Kirk Sutter, the creator,
Don't you hate that when
showrunner, dude,
falls out of your head?
Oh man,
and you
Kirk,
can't pull it up.
Is that your phone?
No, that's the. Let's pause for a second.
Ryan Hurst is the one who played Opie.
Gotcha.
Great actor. I can't believe forgot his name. But and then Tommy Flanagan is the Scottish guy. And remember, we had actually tried to get him for Sons of Thunder. We had reached out to him at one point for somebody. We'd considered him. We definitely considered him. I don't know if we actually made contact, but
like for a club member.
Yeah, we might have been thinking about him for the one Swayze played. I can't remember that character.
Oh, Angie D.
Angie D.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we'd kicked around some names like that, trying to bring somebody in for a few days.
Yeah.
And he was one of them. And I would have loved to have Tommy Flanagan. He's a great actor. I mean, dude, we're talking about back to Braveheart and all that kind of stuff, But yeah, so that's kind of.
So how do you transition from Texas to Hollywood?
Gosh, I hate it, but it was not that hard. Like, now what was hard is giving up everything.
You need to unplug that phone. There's one in front.
I love it. This is real. This is the stuff I like in a podcast, though. Yeah. Personally, Raw. I guess I could have kept talking, and then you could have just edited it over to mine.
Well, it still would have.
I know. You hear the footsteps.
Phone's still ringing. And anyway, what were you saying?
So transitioning from Texas to Hollywood wasn't terrible. The first time I tried it was in 97. It was before 96 or 97, probably 96. Before I went to work, before I went back to wrestling and went to work for Shawn Michaels. I spent the better part of a year back and forth from Hollywood to Pasadena, Texas, the Houston area. And what it was I went out first and went out and, got a job, got an agent, and then started working at Whiskey A Go Go, like world famous Whiskey A Go Go, bouncing. And I would run out of money because making $50 a night, at Whiskey A Go Go, that's not really money, but it would pay for some food. So what I would do is I would run out of money after a couple of months, and then I would come back and I'd be a plumber in Pasadena at James's Plumbing or something. And then I would save up a few $1,000, and a few months later I'd go back to Hollywood. So I was kind of back and forth like that for about a year or so.
Trying to make it.
Yeah, I tried, and the reason that was because Carrie, my first wife, she came out there, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll never live here. This is horrible. Like we were in North Hollywood, and she's just like, there's too many people. I can't do this." And I was like, I had an audition for an Aaron Spilling pilot called Wolf Pack, and my role was Yell Wolf. Like I was one of the Wolf Packs, one of the Wolf brothers. And, and I was like, oh, so, like if that happened, she's like, well, maybe, Thousand Oaks or something, if you can get us a house out there or something, but I can't live around here. So then it comes, okay, well, you go stay there, and I'll just go back and forth, and it was just horrible. It was hard. It was very difficult.
For who?
For me. Her? For me. No, I don't think it was difficult. I don't know. Maybe it was difficult for her. I mean, everything was difficult. That was a very tumultuous relationship for all 12 years that I was there. Mm. So anyway, but that didn't really work, so I went back, and then she's like, "Are you ever thinking about wrestling again?" I'm like, "Yeah, every day of my life." So I started wrestling, and then I gave up wrestling, plumbed for a while. I went to work for I plumbed on Reliance Stadium, the big NRG stadium now, for like 9 months. And as a union plumber, and then my back kept blowing out and all that kind of stuff. So I had to start a plumbing company and all this kind of stuff. And had some success with that, but I just hated life. And then I did Idiocracy, and I'm blowing through a lot of stuff, but Idiocracy and Sin City back to back in 2004.
Those were both filmed in Texas.
Yeah, in Austin.
Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, and then Mike Judge is he's a Texan as well. So now, and so anyway, we did those. We filmed both of those in Austin, and like I had 2 weeks off or something between those movies, really quickly. They were just back to back. But Idiocracy was, huh?
I would say every time I hear someone talk about Idiocracy, like today, like it's a documentary now, it's come true. I always think about you.
No, it's crazy. It's
like, oh, there's Randall in the background.
No, it's crazy. I was watching actually yesterday on Fox News. I sent it to Wayne Knight, my buddy. I was like, dude, it's Idiocracy, and I filmed a little bit of Fox News, and it was AOC. She was like hyping up the crowd for this other.
Oh, that's right,
guy,
Jamal Bowman.
Yeah, and like she comes up and she's like.
They're rapping,
like she's just like and all this stuff, and I'm like,
that was crazy.
My God!
Like,
it was like so. She's like, what? And I'm like, this is crazy. And it was Cardi B was playing. I was like,
our politicians are hip hop artists now.
Yeah. And then Jamal comes up there and he's like, MF this, and all this, and I'm filming it, and then the guy who's running against the Democrat that's running against Jamal his eyes look like, dude. I'm sorry, dude. Like, I'm not laughing. It wouldn't even be funny that his eyes look like that if it wasn't he's running against this guy who's trying to be Camacho. And it's just like, oh my God, this is Idiocracy. You got this totally crazy-eyed dude up there, like, talking, being normal. I was just like, oh, it instantly took me back to the days when, because we were filming Idiocracy and we're just like, this is so ridiculous. This is
back then.
How could this be? Like, this is funny. Like, of course it was funny. We were having a blast, but I'm like, this is just so like outlandish. This is outlandish. And now I look back and it's just so not outlandish. It's so more similar.
No, on both sides. Like it's both sides.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like, hey, I'm
not that we're mocking a guy's vision and
no, not at all. It's just that is who, our my only choice. I'm gonna put my only choice for president is Trump. It's just as a Christian, he's the only viable candidate, and plus, he's done a jam up job on a lot of things. But good Lord, you talking about Idiocracy of going Camacho
he's a comedian.
He just like, he's leading up to this debate. He's just like, so what do you think? He's at a rally. What do you think should I be nice to him or should I? I'm like, oh my God, his crowd is just like, no. Should I just, yes. And I'm just like, oh my God, like they want blood. It's like they want him to
there are some Trump
destroy.
supporters who want blood.
They want him to destroy him.
Yeah.
And and in a way, who doesn't? Like,
Well-
in a way, like it's like I wished that he could just do that. But I'm like, okay, is that too damaging to our country? Is that too damaging to the policy?
Well, the damaging thing is that the debate's going to happen, and the left is going to say that Biden destroyed Trump, and the right's going to say that Trump destroyed Biden, and there's going to be no consensus between the two as to who did a better job.
No, there's no.
Unless Biden just falls down from old age on stage, and collapses,
and then they'll blame him for murder.
Yeah, probably.
They'll probably try him for murder. And try to execute him. Yeah. It's the most insane stuff I've ever seen in my life. So anyway, I did it actually, and then I moved out there again, and it was honestly, I mean, the first time in '96 or whatever, I waited about a week or so to start looking for an agent because I went to my acting class. Cliff Osmond, but he had a school out there, so it was a weekly class there that I could do for 3 months because I was there. And
side note, did you ever watch Barry?
No,
you should watch at least the early seasons. Yeah. There's so much that you will relate to.
Okay,
oh my God,
I gotta watch it then.
You should look at Barry.
That's interesting.
Not that it's a very Christian show or anything, but
what is it about?
It's about a hitman who goes to Hollywood for a hit and then ends up joining an acting class and tries to be an actor.
Okay, so it's basically taken, was it Travolta and them where they did the movie Let's Get Shorty. It's kind of like the Let's Get Shorty story.
No, not quite.
Get Shorty. Yeah, Get Shorty story.
It's this like depressed hitman who it's very violent, very violent show.
Oh my gosh!
And he goes to Hollywood, and then Henry Winkler is the acting teacher.
How could I have never seen that?
That's hilarious. The first 3 seasons are really good, and then it gets a lot more serious.
I mean, I wasn't a hitman, but I got sucked into some pretty close stuff, to pay for my kids. So I got to check that out.
Barry will blow you away.
I got to check that out.
And then Bill Hader. It's one of the best performances I've seen from
bumped into Bill Hader the other day at Comapalooza. Like we're like,
oh yeah, we never talked about.
We were like, he was leaving the bathroom and. Whatever. We were walking down the hallway. It's like, hey, man, how you doing? We got close to the green room because we have mutual friends and all that. It's like we don't know each other, but like a lot of mutual friends. So because the comedy world, you know. But yeah, so I got to check that out. But basically, I moved out there. And it was not that difficult for me because I'm in such a small niche. Like I expected. Okay, in Texas, I auditioned against the same 4 or 5 guys. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to audition against 300 guys or something, because it's so much bigger. No. Got out there and there's 20, maybe 10, maybe. Like it really get down to where I remember when I was really auditioning on a fairly good amount. I called us the usual suspects. And I was like, hey, who's the new guy? Because there'd be a new guy auditioning against us every now and then. It was just the same guys. And I see them all the time. I'm like, oh, he got that, or I would not get the role, but somebody else would get one of the usual suspects would get it. It was pretty cool. So I went out there and it was just, I had an agent instantly. It was wild. Of course, also, Terry Crews got me an agent instantly, which is so rare and doesn't ever happen. But the next day he got me a commercial stunt agent, and then the next day I went over to and got a theatrical agent. So it was just because I had a reel. Nobody goes to Hollywood and I had 2 kids that were born on SAG insurance. It's like I'd had SAG insurance for 10 years. I'd had a lot of speaking roles and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely not. And when people ask me, when they say I want to be an actor, I'm going to move to Hollywood and be an actor. I said, no, man, move to Atlanta. Moved to New Orleans.
Yeah, there's some
moved to New Mexico, Albuquerque. Right, move somewhere where they're making moves. Go to Florida. Go there and get an agent and get in some act class. Go get an agent and then book some roles in a right to work state where you don't have to be Taft-Hartley'd and they have to pay a fine to even use you. Because that's what happens. or you have to be an extra for like 2 years or whatever. You get all, I don't know how that works, but you have to get so many hours on a union set. So which means you got to go be an extra. So that's kind of how. So.
And now with the AI stuff, they just want to get you as an extra one time. Get your likeness.
Well,
and
I
just
don't know.
Print you in the background.
Probably. Is that what they're really doing?
That's what they wanted to do.
Are they really just? They're trying to.
That's what a lot of the AI
they're trying
stuff
to eliminate
was with
the extras. I was wondering what they were trying to. Yeah, that makes sense.
So anyway, like you know, transitioning over to Hollywood. Where's your Christian walk then? Like, where's your?
Oh man,
how's your faith?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it took a hit hard because I went out there. I mean, I'm like, I'm going to go still be, a Christian and all that because just because I'm in Hollywood doesn't mean that. But, you think about it, it's like when I went, so just for me to go to Hollywood in 2004, it's like, hey, we were doing Idiocracy. I was doing Idiocracy, and my wife and kids would come to the Hilton on 5th Street in downtown Austin on the weekends. And we'd hang out at the pool with Terry Crews and his family and, and Dave Herman and all his son. And, like the families would hang out, And then they're all, and I told them, I'm moving to Hollywood. So I told my wife, I said, look, when this movie's over, I'm going to sell the plumbing company, give the plumbing company, whatever. I don't know. I'm moving to Hollywood. This is now or never. I just did Sid City and Idiocracy. Like, these are big movies. It's now or never. I said, and she's like, ugh. And I said, so look, you and the kids can come, with me, and we can starve together and make it together. Like her get a job, me get a job, whatever, and we live out there, and we get in a house, and the kids live there, and all that. And I said, or I guess you can move to your house behind your parents, because her and her brother had 2 acres behind their parents' house, and each of them had a house, like like she had a trailer house there. And she's like, "No, I'm gonna go live behind mom and dad." And I was like, so I tell people, if you ever want your kids to leave and stay gone, do not give them 2 acres and a house behind you, because the slightest wrinkle, they're back. And so I mean, but I had to literally, okay, well, I'm gonna go do that, and then I'll fly back and see you and the kids, but knowing that it was kind of over, it's like, it's like, you're like, this ain't going to work, this is a lot. So basically I walked away from my family, so you hit this, I mean, instantly you have this condemnation of like, wow, I'm a shitty person. So, and then you're out there, and then, naturally I started bouncing again, and then, but it wasn't just there. I started, instead of, I couldn't make the money I needed at Whiskey A Go-Go. So I'm bouncing at nightclubs, and then that's a whole nother kind of thing, a Hollywood nightclub, and then, I'm picking up shifts down in the Bay Area, the South Bay, and then that's some gangster stuff, and then it's just like, hey man, you can make some money collecting, and it's like, oh, I don't know about that, and it's like, well, you're trying to support your kids, and it's just like, whoo, like I mean, just compromise after compromise after compromise.
So like the wrestling, it seems like the wrestling had it like in the background of wrestling, where it's going to Hollywood, it was the background of everything else, like just getting by.
Yeah. It was
while you're trying to get roll, because it doesn't seem like the problem so much on the film set.
Yeah, no, I on the film set, though I tend to
unless someone's doing a Stallone run,
I tongue in cheek say, that. And tongue in cheek, but I kind of mean it, satanic Hollywood, I call it satanic Hollywood, but it's more, I don't know. I mean, there probably is some of that crazy, sacrifices and stuff going on, but mostly what I mean is just LaVeyan Satanism, like worship of self, like, oh, I worship myself. I'm my own God. So that's what I say when I mean satanic Hollywood. So there's that. But man, I've done, like, on sets, man, it's like Bible studies or get like philosophy, and like it's awesome because I mean the actors are kooky and they're all into yoga or
so on Harold and Kumar in the background, you're just kind of having a Bible study.
Not in that one, But yeah, some of them. I mean, I've had some crazy great experiences in the green rooms and or hanging out in somebody's trailer because we got to talking on set, and then and then we're released and we go spend half our time sitting on the front steps of the trailer talking, continuing our conversation. And yeah, I've had some great stuff, so it's, it's not that temptation. And I've never had the whole, crazy parties and getting coked up and, like that kind of temptation. But
you think you got a level of discipline from wrestling? Like having to perform the next day, or
yeah, it's probably. Also, I just never liked that stuff. Like that never was a real temptation for me, even in wrestling. I never really did any of that stuff till painkillers and stuff entered the equation.
Yeah, management.
Yeah, I mean, when you're taking that, and then that changes everything. Because you're like, I'm taking this, and it's this, and it's like, I'm down. I got to get up. Whatever. I mean, that's when once you start using narcotics to function, then you can start abusing narcotics. But I never really. It never was a big temptation to party and all that stuff. Plus I was married from the time I was 19 on, had kids by the time I was 22, 23, so, and I'll go to church and all that. So that kind of kept me out of a lot of trouble. That's why we're talking about calling my book, Crossing the Line, and have me like standing in the middle of a road, which we probably should go shoot that sometime. The cover, but like with a no crossing, like the double, and then with just like a long road behind me, because basically that's what
we need to go out to West Texas.
Because I would, that's the thing. I would cross the line. I would just like I'm trying to toe that line, but just it's it's very difficult. So, and back then, I mean, you're young, you're stupid, you don't really understand. Your walk with the Lord's not what it is when you're older or whatever, and you're like, God's not going to care. Like, is that even really a sin? I mean, you go through phases of your walk where everything's a sin and nothing's a sin. Everything's a sin and nothing's, at least with me.
Well, and definitely the environment you're in too. Because if you're surrounded by Christians, your walk is going to be more clear.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing, like if you're in the wrestling, then it's like, it's this whole testosterone-filled, strip clubs and ring rats and all this, stuff like that is the temptation. Whereas, in Hollywood, it was more like, at least my temptation there would be, if anything, I mean, of course, the violence on the other side. Now that really wasn't because of acting. That was just like to make money, to collecting and things like that. It was just to send money to the kids. Mm-hmm. So that was like, well, I'll do this to pay for my kids. But like, as far as the compromise or the things that you can get, that I would get sucked into, in Hollywood would be, maybe more new agey type, because I'm so
crystals and
well, no, not me. It's just possibly debatably. Let me put it, debatably bad theology. Debatably.
It's more like the Gnostic stuff.
I still somewhat identify Gnostic-y, I mean, not what true Gnostic Christians are, but it's like,
I don't think
I am so, I'm so not fundamentalist that it's scary. Sometimes I'm like, oh wow, I don't really have a major problem with that, But I mean, not the ones that, I mean, even within the Gnostics, I'm sure there's different sects of.
You have an example of something?
Well, there's some of the Gnostics, allegedly. I mean, what I've seen, they can claim that Jesus never died on the cross, or somebody, that it was, a replacement. I mean,
like the hardline breaking of the Christian faith.
There's some fringy, stuff out there, But as far as
but you don't agree with that.
No, I don't agree with that. But as far as like having gnosis, yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, like when you really, have the Spirit, when you're filled with the Holy Spirit and you seeking God and all that, you do have somewhat of a gnosis, where you just knowledge, like you just have this knowledge, it's like this, it's like, oh, I know that's true, you know. I can't prove it, but I know it, and so that kind of frustrates me with even some of my fundamentalists. Wow, where are we going with this, Lord? Because some of my more fundamentalist brothers and sisters, even in my ministry, who I love and adore and lean on for advice and things like that, but there'll be, it's their, it's like, they have certain just, dogma, so to speak, that they've learned that's been passed down, So, even in Protestant, or whatever, just Protestant Christianity or just, evangelical, we're still, a lot of the stuff that we have, the things that we see as true are handed down from Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Sundays and
worship
on Sundays and
I mean, Catholicism and
it's stamped.
Orthodoxy, they hold on to a lot of traditions and man things more so than Protestants do.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of things.
Yeah. Protestants being who? Like you're talking about like
the break off, like Lutherans break off, but there's a lot of orthodoxy. Like Lutherans are far closer to Catholicism than Baptists are.
Right. Or like the Episcopals. Yeah. But then the Episcopals,
Orthodox,
the Episcopals that I know, which just doesn't mean that this is this doesn't mean this is what Episcopals are like. But the Episcopals I know are very open. Like they're a little more spiritual and than the Lutherans I know.
Mm-hmm.
Again, doesn't mean that's what Lutherans and Episcopals are really like, but the ones that I know, the Lutherans are very, it's like, I don't know, lawyery, this is,
legalistic.
Whereas legalist, and then the Episcopals I know are just very hippy dippy, in a good way,
Interesting.
So, but again, that could just be because the Episcopal I know, is very hippy dippy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's the, so I mean, again, that's a possible pitfall to Hollywood is that you're around a lot of people that, like they maybe don't have a problem with Jesus, but, they don't exactly see Jesus like we see Jesus and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh, wow, how much do we end up mingling, our faith and
corrupting,
So that's why I say, you stumble across a lot of false doctrines
because you can be corrupted by legalism and like with the Pharisees where you were adding laws to the law in order to protect the law,
right?
Or you can go the other direction where you let everything in, and you believe in Jesus, but you also believe in I mean, I'm not saying that energies and chakras aren't real, but like, because I think there's aspects to that, but when you put so much weight on it in your crystals,
well, that's so that's interesting. I don't know how we end up here, but this is fun to me because I think, and I could be wrong, and that's the difference between me and a lot of people is that I'm like, I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, and then of course my more what do we call it? I was just calling the fundamentalist brothers and sisters will be like, yep, you're wrong. Oh, so I allow for a wrong, and then you jump on it. Like, yep, you're wrong. You are correct. You are correct. You are wrong. Yes. So, but to me, I say this a lot, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, all astrology is just evil and wicked, really, because they found Jesus that way. The stars are put up there. To be signs. So they're signs, but we're not supposed to use them. No, that's crazy. What we're not supposed to do is put the creation above the creator. So, same thing with chakras and crystals and all that stuff, in my opinion. I am not opposed to it if used correctly. You know, if it's a Swiss Army knife and we're not worshiping the Swiss Army knife.
Gotcha.
You know, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
You know, now, is it easier now that I'm in the ministry to just go all bad, throw those crystals away? Yes.
Interesting.
Is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't begrudge a shepherd.
Does it hurt to have the crystals around?
I don't begrudge a shepherd
Does
for
it
being
help?
a shepherd to his sheep and trying to keep them away from pitfalls.
That's very true.
And crystals could be a big pitfall.
I mean, that's, if
astrology could be a big pitfall.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong if used correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah, someone who understands how to wade into the water. I mean, that's probably a bad analogy, but someone who knows how to wade into the water
but
and not go into the deep end and drown
Yeah.
versus someone who just doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like if we use the wade into the water, so it's like, you know, you're supposed to go down there and get a drink of that water. And then go back to your now the people that go, oh, and they jump in and they just drowned. They drowned in the water. Yeah. The water didn't nourish their body. You know, they drowned it and overdosed on water. Yeah. You know, so, you know, that's the thing. So it's like, you know, so maybe it's something, wow, I don't know. This is cool because maybe it's something you watch your kids when they go around the water. You don't let them go into the water too much. But when you're, I don't go to with my brother to the swimming hole and be like, well, let me go watch you. Yeah. You know, I used to go watch him when I was 12 and he was, 11 or 10, or when I was 12 and he was 9, I would make sure that I was with him. I don't anymore. You know, he's an adult. He's not going to drown. He's not going to overdose on the water. Yeah. You know, the water is good for you.
Well, and that's part of being like a meat-eating Christian or someone who's eating the meat of the word. Yeah. Like who has discerning and understanding where they can look at something and parse it out. Yeah. And determine whether it's good or bad. Now, I mean, the Bible does say that the knowledge of evil is not wisdom. So I don't think that's like a pursuit of Satanism or like delving into like the stuff that's clearly on the surface wicked. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I don't think that you need to go try every drug in order to have understanding and wisdom.
No, you totally
don't need that.
You totally don't need to.
I mean, absolutely. That is folly.
Exactly. You know, now, like I say, but, you know, I know people, you know, I've over the years, I remember, and this is the danger, you know, what I see as a danger. I don't guess it's not a danger. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I've seen people where I'm like, hey, you know, my chiropractor could fix that. And they're like, is your chiropractor a Christian? Like, is your doctor a Muslim? Probably. You know? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, do you know the religion of your doctors? Mm. What about when you're your eye doctor? Do you make sure he's a Christian? Yeah. You know? I mean, so it's kind of like, you know, throwing that, I was like, people are like, oh, no, that chiropractor stuff is wicked. I mean, it's just crazy to me. But I've literally had that conversation with people over the time, to where anything outside of what Fox News endorses, you know, is evil and all that. It's like no. It's like I'm like, I don't know. Is your what religion is your doctor? Probably a Muslim. My doctor, I don't know. I think he's probably a Christian, but I don't know. I never asked him. I know he lays hands on me, and I get better. So you know, you know. But it's interesting how you know, when you approach. I'm not saying that it's like I say again. I've seen my pastor say stuff, and me be close enough to my pastor to go, wait, why don't you talk about that?
Preach that from the pulpit.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, we've talked about this. And he's like, man, you know, I could show you some weirder stuff than that that'll blow your mind. But if I preached it from the pulpit, people would get caught up in that and miss Jesus. Mm-hmm. And
or they run you out with pitchforks.
Yeah. And I was really upset about it. I was like, man, I can't believe this. Like he's lying because he's holding back truth. I mean, you know, the whole truth, nothing but the truth to help God, you know. And then as I get older, I'm just like, no, he's totally, like he's herding his sheep to safety, you know. I mean, you know, it doesn't mean that there's a wolf behind that tree, but he's not going to let him go over there, his sheep go over there behind that tree because he might get eaten, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, if he's faulting to safety, you know, I mean, so be it. You know, I mean, I don't begrudge that either. I don't begrudge my more fundamentalist brothers and sisters, you know, for playing it safe but you know, at the same time, you can also get into, ooh, wow, are you causing your other brother to stumble? Are you, you know, is your dogma, preventing people from entering the kingdom? And you know, so and the fact is, yes. Are you saving some people? Yes. Are you pushing people away? Yes.
Yeah.
Like I don't even get mad at the hellfire and brimstone people anymore. Like I used to, I was kind of like, that's fear based, you know. It's like now I'm just like, that's for somebody.
Yeah.
You know, that's for somebody.
Yeah, somebody that will help somebody.
Yeah, and then I used to, and then when I got with Saved Savage, even just in this last 3.5 years with Saved Savage, because going into the bars, we're dealing with 80% of everybody we deal with in Saved Savage's church hurt. 80%, every bit of it. And I'm like, man, you know, see, these people are running these people to the bars. You know, how dare them people? Is it how dare? I'll dare them people. What is that actually?
How do you mean? What?
Well, like, how dare you? You know, like, what do you? Is it I'll dare you or how dare you or what is that?
Well, like that you would cross that line that you.
No, I mean, what is the actual like words that you're supposed to say?
You?
How dare you? Okay, so how dare those people run those people out of church into the bars? You know, blast them. You know,
the church. You mean?
Yeah,
yeah.
Wait a minute. They did what they did for handle their sheep. Those sheep wouldn't line up. They go to the bars, and then we go out there.
Yeah.
Maybe that was God's plan.
We're all fallible. We all do things that are wrong.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden come short of the glory of God.
Yeah.
The goal is to do your best.
Right.
You know.
But my point is maybe they will never fit into that church anyway.
Correct.
So it might be good that they just...
Well, there's a reason there's multiple denominations and different churches and different ways of viewing things. The point is, like, do you believe in the fundamentals of Christianity? Do you believe in Jesus as your Savior?
Right.
And do you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, your neighbor as yourself?
Yeah.
That's the line.
Yeah, but see, everybody has slightly different lines, even in the fundamentalists. I mean, there is the fundamentalists that they all kind of agree.
Most Christians don't, like, even if you're Catholic or Protestant or even Mormon, like, everyone kind of agrees on that, like, love your neighbor, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and your neighbor as yourself.
Absolutely. And so it's funny with some of my fundamentalist brothers and sisters, you know, will be like, yeah, man, I've just got a smaller foundation, than you. I agree with you. You know, it's like we have the same foundation. It's just mine's a little I can't even don't even know exactly what, but like, you know, it's just, to me, the foundation is even smaller. It's like, do you, do you receive Christ as your Savior? You know, Jesus Christ as your Savior. You know, like, do you trust in Christ? You know, is your trust in Christ, you know, is that what has reconciled you to the Father? You know, to me, you know, because, you know, the Apostle Paul, I think, you know, he said, you know, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth, like you said, confess with your mouth and believe in your heart, then you're saved, you know. Now, a couple of sentences over, he takes that guy, the king, I mean, I think it was the guy, his guard, and he goes and saves his family, and they all get baptized. So, you know, some people say, well, if you're not baptized, then you're not saved. You know, some people say, no, it's the heart thing. You know, so even within the fundamentalists, there's differences.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in those debates where one of them's like, nope. If you don't get baptized, like, really? So if you die on the way home, well, then God wouldn't let you die if you're really saved. And I'm like, okay, you know, maybe, you know.
Or like the Pentecostals, where if you haven't spoken in tongues, you haven't been filled with the Holy Ghost, and you're not saved.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's so crazy. I don't. Again, now, does that mean that there's not going to be Pentecostals in heaven? No.
Yeah,
and that's what gets me. That's what gets me about the division, the divisiveness within the church, is that, you know, we'll sit here and go, you know, like, oh, that guy's a preacher of false doctrine. See what he said? Discount everything he's ever said. I mean, it's like Christians are the original cancel culture.
Yeah.
You think about it, like, anything that, whatever. I mean, there are probably people that disagree with John Osteen as much, and I'll use that because that's a controversy. That's a lot. That's a hot. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people do.
Joel Osteen.
Joel Osteen, but there's probably people that hate Joel Osteen so much that they cancel everything John Osteen ever said. You know what I mean? Which, it's just, it's like, how far does it go back?
Well, it goes back at the beginning. I mean, Catholics were killed a lot of Protestants, burned a lot of people at the stake. And then just Romans were killing Christians.
Yeah.
We've been killing each other for a long time.
Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Can't we all get along? Remember that? No. That Rodney, Rodney that got beat up by the cops in L.A. riots?
Rodney King.
Rodney King.
Yeah.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, man, but it's a wild ride, man.
So how'd you transition out of Hollywood?
Out of Hollywood.
Have you transitioned?
I'm not sure if I
Hollywood?
have.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Deadpool 3 coming out right now.
Yeah.
And woo, Christians ain't gonna love that. I was over there. We were filming. I was like, Lord, are you sure? Maybe I misheard you. Maybe I should not have done this, but I don't know. We'll see. Doesn't matter. Did it. And and it's huge, and I'm just trying to get everything I can out of. I'm trying to anything that I can use of that to grow the kingdom. That's what I'm doing. But I don't know if I'm completely out. I'm always. Should I go back? Should I not? I mean, even recently, I asked my agent. I was like, "Hey, man, should I come out there and be there more?" And I was kind of looking for a yes because I miss my wife. So I'm like, I'm hoping he goes, "Yeah, man, you'd work a lot more if you were out here." And I was like, okay, maybe that's it. Because I had so many people saying, you need to be a good example in Hollywood and all that. And I don't really believe that. I think you dance with the devil changes you, not the other way around. Sure. But I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. And I'm always like, hey, this is what I think, but maybe I'm wrong. So I was like, well, maybe I should be there. Maybe all these people that keep encouraging me to go back to Hollywood and be a good example in Hollywood, maybe that's God. And so I called my agent and I was like, I asked him, and he goes, no. He said, not really. I mean, nobody has to go to auditions anymore. You send in tape. You can do it from anywhere. I was like, dang, man. I mean, I'm not itching to go back to Hollywood because I hate it as soon as I get there. But I love my wife.
Yeah.
I love my wife.
Well, that's always good.
I mean, was it the third's a charm? third wife's a charm?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, so no, I really, really love and adore her, and I'd like to be there more, and I feel like Elijah, who's been away, too long, so. But
I guess you did leave Hollywood and go into the wilderness for a while.
I did. And it's funny because I since you want to go with that, the other day I was crying out to God. I actually, and this was my crying out to God. And I'll just be honest. I sat down. I'm staying with a bro of mine, like one of Saved Savage brother of mine. So nobody's there. I'm just sitting in the house. I was like, I'm gonna turn on the TV and watch some YouTube, and I watch a documentary or something. And I was just done. I'm so tired, just been building Americanic as much as I could. Been building the ministry, making no money basically, except a few residuals and an occasional something that pays. So just brokering a joke. And I was just like, Lord, I can't do this much longer. And I turn on YouTube and it says recommended, and this Mark Driscoll video pops up, and across it, how they do the thumbnail or whatever, it says, "Are you just tired?" And I felt like one of those movies where the TV's talking to you, and you're like, yes, and it's answering everything. And I was like, yeah. And I clicked on, I was literally like, wow, thank you, Jesus. And I click on it, and I love Mark Driscoll anyway. And so I click on him, and it just straight into the, mid-sermon or so, whatever. And he He said, if there was ever a classic example of burnout in the Bible, it'd be Elijah. There he was, hiding under a tree, or laying under a tree, saying, "God, just kill me." And he had been away from home for 3.5 years, and I was like, because that's how long I've been building. That's how long I've been away. I was like, whoa. It was so overwhelmingly cool because I was like, God just literally spoke to me. So I listened to that 8-minute clip of a sermon, and I was like, wow. And I sent it out to a couple of my leaders, and it's like, check this out, So, because I just sat down and poured me a cocktail. That's my crying out from God, like, God, help me. I'm going to just sit here under a tree and have me a cocktail.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I don't need that cocktail. What am I doing? So anyway. So yeah, it was, I mean, it sounds funny, but it was like a powerful thing because I was just like devastated, and then it's like, but God showed up right there with that YouTube, man. God jacked that algorithm, man. So,
well, I mean, the wilderness, like a lot of important things in our faith came from the wilderness.
So I don't know. Transitioning out of Hollywood, I don't know if it's happened. I don't know if it'll ever happen. I mean, unless I just quit acting, I mean, now, Americonic happens and we've got an Americonic studio and we never leave Texas and we just fly everybody in. It will feel like we've left Hollywood or like it'll feel like I've transitioned, but are we really? Or are we just, in the devil's territory conquering it,
Yeah. I don't know.
So, yeah, that's my answer. I don't know.
How did, let's talk about Saved Savage then. How did Saved Savage start?
Oh, man.
Since we've referenced it a lot.
Oh, we've referenced a lot. So, yeah. So, well, I'll so this, I think I've gotten better at keeping it short. So, about 3.5 years ago or so, my brother and I had wired off the money to start building Americonic, like to the builder in San Antonio. Good guy. Like the guy. Missed the heck out of that guy, too. Need to go see him. But anyway, he's no longer working with us, but I really like that guy. He's a great guy. So anyway, we wired off the money to start the build on Americonic. And within days or weeks, I mean, very quickly, like maybe the same week, maybe the next day, I don't know. I woke up in the morning. I was with my Aunt Sandy at her house. She took care of my grandmother, and so we're both early people, so we're up drinking coffee at like 5 in the morning or something. And I do I do an app called the Daily Audio Bible app. Love it, and so does she, and so does my cousin. So does a lot of people that I know. And so it's kind of cool because we're always on the same page. We go through the Bible in a year. You can read it or you can listen to it or whatever. So we'd listen to it. And then afterwards we would, we would not naturally just talk. So almost have a devotion every morning about what we just heard, what we just went through. And that morning I was just staring at the floor, just like, and she said, "Everything all right? What's going on? What are you thinking about?" And I just I looked up at her and I said, I don't think God's going to bless anything I touch until I put his ministry first in my life. And I was like, what did I just say? Why did I say that? I just cursed myself. Like now nothing's going to get blessed. Well, I just killed Americonic. This is crazy, And of course she says, well, what's this ministry for your life? And I was like, ain't that the bitch? You'd think if he was going to not give it, not bless me till I did it, he would freaking tell me what it is. I was not happy.
Yeah, you don't sound very happy.
Not happy. I was not happy, Lord. I am sorry, but I was not happy. So, I don't know. We talked for a little while, and I said, well, I gotta go take a shower and go about my day, so in the shower, I had my my Pandora going on my Zach Williams channel. So I'm listening to Zach Williams or Third Day or We the Kingdom or whoever's playing. And it's just going from all around, bouncing around as I'm in the shower shaving or whatever. But I'm in the shower and I'm showering and shaving and all that. But I'm just like, I'm having this conversation with God. I'm like, God, you cannot be telling me to go into bars at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Sunday and doing a church
Was that like a thought that just like came into your head? Like, okay, this is what you're going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm being, okay, God, I'm being transactional. I'm just trying to throw stuff at the wall. It's like, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this? And I was like, wait a minute. I'm not throwing anything at the wall. I can't think of anything but going into the bars at 2 p.m. specifically and do an unchurchy church service, like a very specific time. Like, this is peculiar. Like, this is crazy. Okay, I knew I would go crazy and be a homeless person and, like lose it and, lose everything and just be a crazy person one day. I knew it. I knew it. Here it is. A little sooner than I thought, but here it is. And then I hear Cody Jinks start playing on my Pandora. I was like, pop out of that thought with God, and I was like, is that Cody Jinks on the Christian Pandora? What the hell is Cody Jinks doing on my Christian Pandora? I get mad. Because, believe it or not, I get mad. And I'm sure it's a shocker. So I pull the curtain. I'm surprised I didn't rip the curtain. And I step out, grab my phone off the lavatory to thumbs down it so that Cody Jinks doesn't continue to jump into my, Christian Pandora, I don't want to mess up the algorithm. And about that time, Cody Jinks says, I remember Matthew 5. I'm just thankful to be alive. And a lot of those people on the mountain were just like me. And I was like, I dropped the phone on the thing. I was like, oh, why is Cody Jinks talking about the Sermon on the Mount right now? And I just looked up and said, okay, God, I will go into churches at 2 p.m. and do an unchurchy church service. I'm sorry. So I did. 8 days later or something like that, we did our first one, had 25 people or so show up. The next week we did it at another bar, had 35 people or so show up. We didn't really count it then. We were just looking at the pictures. But I knew it was more, and we've, from the pictures, we're looks like added about 10 every week. Till the third week we did count, and it was 45 or so, 44 or 45 people, I can't remember. And then the next week 50-something, and then 60-something, and it dropped one week when we went to it was 70-something, then it would drop to 40-something because we went to Galveston, and that was a real long trip, and a lot of people didn't come. And then the next week it was 105 people showed up or something. It was crazy.
So is it a lot of the same people?
Well, yeah, except 10 to 20 more each week. But yeah, yeah.
And the people who are forced to be part of it because they're at the bar on a Sunday.
No. I'm kind of counting the people that came for it. At the bars What I mean
is when you go into an open bar
absolutely.
On a Sunday at 2 p.m., there's people there drinking who get to hear a church service.
The bars that we did intentionally were bars that maybe there'd be 3 to 5 people on a Sunday because we didn't want to go into a biker bar or whatever where there's a ton of people already there and we're ambushing people. Also, we don't think the bar wouldn't have appreciated it.
Yeah,
as we want to be respectful of the bar. I
don't know. This is also you're not just invading a bar. You call them ahead of time.
We were asked to go there, or we asked
set up events.
At first, we asked Kima Shop Bar. Because when God told me to do it, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I'm like, oh, my God. That's easy to say. What kind of bar? Who's going to let me use their bar for a church service? And I was like, wait a minute. Clint, he's crazy. He might let me use his bar. So I called Clint. He's like, and I said, hey, man, can I FaceTime you? Because I kept trying to go by the bar to see him. And I said, can I FaceTime you? And he goes, yeah, weird, but sure. So we FaceTime, and he goes, hey, what's up? I said, hey, man, can I use your bar this Sunday at 2 p.m.? He's like, Kima Shop Bar? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, cool.
Didn't ask what for?
No, totally. It was it's I'm surprised he didn't say. Are you burying somebody? Do you need a shovel? He was just he was about it. He's like, yeah, man, sure. And he goes, what do you need to use it for? I was like, ooh, well, this is why I wanted to FaceTime you. I said, I want to do a church service. And he's like, you want to use Kima Shop Bar for a church service on Sunday, this Sunday? He says, yeah. I said, yeah. He goes, that's awesome, bro. I'll cook chicken and waffles. It was just like that.
He's on board.
On board. And then the next one was Bobby's Bayou Bar, B3s. Yeah. And we, I mean, they were on board. And then people started asking us, like, hey, what y'all are doing? Like, can you come over here? Can you come over here? It's like, so it was really, hey, man, I told so-and-so what y'all are doing. And they asked, well, can we come over there? And man, bars started asking us to do it. It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, but no, it was a wild ride. And then, now we do some motorcycle rallies. Now we do motorcycle shops on Friday night. So it's kind of expanded and turned into something else. So it's really cool.
How many chapters do you have now?
We don't have chapters. We have tribes.
Tribes.
Clubs have chapters.
Gotcha.
No, we did that to kind of one reason we'd kind of distance it so that we're not a club.
I mean, do you have like the full rockers and?
No, we don't. Well, rockers, see that you got it, because the rockers is where you get in trouble. We have a patch, but we don't have rockers. We don't allow rockers because that's where you kind of become a club or even.
Do you think that other like 1%er clubs would mess with y'all, being it's a Christian club?
Not if you do. If you put rockers on, then you have to. There's certain things you have to do, like it would be a motorcycle ministry, or a motorcycle club. It would have to be in it, and you would have to go to the, you go to the, the COC, like Convention of Clubs and different things, like where they get together, and and you.
So you gotta be a brother.
Well, yeah, you gotta be a brother. I'm not good at being a brother, so I just sit in the corner. No, I mean, it's a whole different kind of rules, So, and it's just a whole different kind of thing. I just don't want to do. I mean, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, our Saved Savage Ministries, we got a shirt that says, that we're a bar ministry with a motorcycle habit. So there's a lot of bikers in Saved Savage. Yeah. Which comes from a quote from AWOL, which is one of our original guys that really taught a lot at first. So shout out to AWOL. But yeah, I mean, it's we. I don't know. I don't really want to do it. But we always talk about it. It's always a conversation. Maybe we should just go club. Maybe we should just go MM. Maybe we should go MC. Maybe we should, because it's not like the rules are a pain. They're not really a pain, but it's just something else to deal with. So like kind of a headache that I don't want to deal with, and most of us don't want to deal with. But it also kind of keeps you. Then there are rules. So we're in this kind of outlaw, where it's like, yeah, we shouldn't do that, guys. Don't do that anymore. So instead of, we're kind of doing it backwards. Instead of like establishing the rules and moving forward, we kind of haven't. And so that's kind of been a little bit of an issue. And so there's, I don't know, pick your headache. I mean, it ain't easy. Going out and doing it. The Lord tells you to go do something. It ain't easy.
It sounds like you don't kind of be adding a master as well.
Yeah.
Because he said rules to follow that are outside the realm of the Bible.
Right. And that's what kind of we really just trying to keep it ministry. Just say Savage Ministries. Not even motorcycle ministries, not bar ministries, just ministries. So
okay. So how many tribes do you have?
We got 2, but we got 2 or 3 that are trying to form. So, like, so that's scary too, because every tribe that it's like my fear is that that's so much of a, it's like a responsibility that I take on or somebody takes on, and
you have to have someone you trust,
right,
leading the ministry,
right?
Because I mean, I can see with a ministry like this where you could start going a ride. It's just a party at the bar on 2 p.m.
Absolutely. We can't have a 2 p.m. Jesus party, like drunken Jesus party. So we can't do that. But see, again, it's funny. We're not teetotalers. Every other MM I know, not every. I mean, I'm sure there's some that aren't, but everyone that I know has no drinking,
Christian
no smoking, no tobacco, no cursing, no, like they have real strict rules. Like, Christian MMs or Christian MCs, all of them have strict rules, and we don't. We just don't. And I'm just always like, God, can't we just establish rules? Like, can't we just like no drinking policy? Because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to just say no drinking. Because if we have a no drunkenness policy, but not a no drinking policy, then it's like, well, I ain't drunk.
Yeah. Where's that line?
Yeah. It's literally different for everybody. I mean,
drunkenness is a blurry line.
It is.
Pun intended.
That is. I like that, the blurry line. Yeah, because I mean, I can sit here. I mean, we could sit here. We could have been sitting here the whole time, and I'm on my fourth.
Easy.
On my fourth bourbon, neat, and maybe a beer chaser. I still wouldn't be drunk.
Yeah.
Somebody else does that, they're in prison for the rest of their life. For doing something horrible.
Yeah.
So that's and that's why I've just so many times I said, God, can't we just make a no drinking rule like everybody else? He's like, nope. I'm like, you sure? Like maybe I'm not hearing right. I'm gonna ask you again.
Yeah.
Has
not having that rule generated any problems? Or
probably if only with religious people. Like, I'm sure that I've heard and I've kind of seen it. I know that some of the other, ministries out there are like, they still they still allow people to act like a fool.
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like that.
I mean, this ministry is not really for them.
No, they're already saved.
It's kind of like this podcast, like the name of the podcast. Like, this is not for.
That's the thing, man. I really like. I mean, not to be rude. It's going to come off rude, but I don't really care. They're already saved. Like, I don't care. Like, I remember years ago I had this. Well, I have this shirt company actually, but it's just hadn't done anything with it. And it was going to be like. It has these symbols on the front, and then on the back, the words that match the symbols. That's all I'm gonna say. And on the back it would say, "Jesus loves Satan." And man,
I bet that caught some.
Oh man, and I never did that one, but I was like, this is gonna be awesome because like so many people are gonna react. But it's like I'm not after. I had a shirt. I wanted to do one that's like. F Satan, but not like, literally, boom, and people are like, you're gonna offend a lot of people with that. And this was 20 years ago I had this idea. You're gonna offend a lot of people with that. I'm like, who? Like, well, all the Christians are gonna offend them. I'm like, F them. They're already saved. Like, I don't care what they think. So I've always been probably out there. I mean, that's why God would call me to go do something like this.
Well, there's some people who just cannot be reached with a more traditional format. And it's not right or wrong kind of thing. Yeah. It's just...
Yeah, I had a controversial thing along this line. One of our guys, I don't want to say who just because I don't have his permission, but one of our guys who started ministering, really started preaching. And he came to me one time after a service and he said, "Hey, do you think that we're so effective, like that some of us being effective in reaching who we reach is because they think we may have been hungover last week?" It's like, does that make us more approachable? I was like, I don't know. I said, what I do know is that you are going to find out that it would have been much easier for us to have gone to seminary, came out and went on staff at a Baptist or a Assembly of God church. Because there would have been a book of rules of you cannot do this, you can do this. Mm-hmm. And I said, and we don't have that book. And now I've got other brothers and sisters of mine in the ministry that go, oh, we got the book. It's the Bible. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, you're right. We got this huge, vague book written over centuries by 40 different people that's been interpreted thousands of different ways, by millions of different people. And yeah, you're right. We got that book, but I meant a more precise little rule book that's very small. And they're like, no, man, the Bible. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, so should we kill our unruly child before the age of accountability so that we can save his soul? Because then that's in there. Should so and so kill his little son because clearly that boy ain't right?
Well, there's a little more to it than that,
but I mean. But you see what I'm saying? Like, that it's like,
I think it does come down to like whose interpretation of the Bible, because we all like, there's a lot of.
Well, then what are you interpreting it from? Are you going from Old Testament? Are you going from the New Testament? Are you, I mean, because I know you've read a lot, and I read a lot in the Bible, and man, that Old Testament, I mean, I get stuff from it. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes at the end of my session, I'm like, wow, the Lord really spoke to me through the Old Testament. So I don't want to discount the Old Testament, but
there's some rough stuff.
Some of that stuff, I'm like, good Lord.
As someone who was like raised Christian, like always like never ignoring the Old Testament, like, a lot of it you can kind of like, this is just what happens. Right. Like for me, it's like, that's what's there.
Yeah.
So you don't think about it. It's kind of old hat in that you're not shocked by much that's in the Old Testament. I'm not.
Yeah, well, I'm not shocked about it, but my point is,
until you start paying attention.
When you start like talking about drinking rules in a bar ministry, and you're like, gosh, it's such a blurry line, to coin your phrase, and you have people going, oh no, it's easy. We got the Bible. It's like, really? Yeah. So we shouldn't drink? Yeah. Because right over here it says, no drunkenness,
Jesus turned the water into wine.
Jesus' first miracle is turning water into wine, dude. Yeah. Well, that was a new wine. No, bro. Literally, they came up and said, whoa, this is the best wine. Most people use the best wine at the beginning, and then once everybody's drunk, they pull out the old wine.
So you get the best grape juice at the beginning.
Yeah,
and then you bring out the
after everybody's drunk on the grape juice. I mean, that is just ludicrous. So no, I mean, John's disciples went to Jesus, and they said, and I'm not condoning drinking, by the way, or certainly not drunkenness. Well, I mean,
because the Bible says no drunkard will enter the kingdom of heaven.
Absolutely.
That's an idolatry thing. That's where like alcohol is your god.
Yeah. What is a drunkard and all that? That means, so if somebody's drunk and they fall and they get hit by a car or something and they're going to hell, that's crazy.
Well, like if it's your God, if alcohol is more important to you than following God, then you're following the wrong God.
And that being, then no astrologer would go to heaven or no whatever to what we were talking about earlier. It's like if you elevate that above God,
or your allegiance
then would it be like, if we went with that route, would it be no cheerleader parent goes to heaven?
How's that?
Well, because they've put their daughter's cheerleading stuff above God in every way possible.
Sure.
No football. No. Oh, we're in East Texas.
Yeah.
No.
As my dad was a foot bail.
We
basketball.
No football parent goes to heaven, because some of them place it above God, and that becomes their idol.
But that's true. Like it can be true of movies. It can be true of alcohol, drugs.
No filmmaker goes to heaven. No, and that's the whole thing. It's like no one who places anything above God, is what I think is what.
It's up to him what he does, but it's one of those things where you're out of alignment with God.
Right.
If anything is more important to you, than following Jesus, you're out of alignment.
Right. Absolutely.
That doesn't mean that things can't be important to you.
Yeah.
But who will you obey first?
Absolutely.
Which master will you obey first?
Yeah. It's like, so again, and that goes back to the so that, literally this all proves what I'm saying. It's like, it would have been easier had we just went to seminary, come out on staff of, not saying it would be more fulfilling or more godly, but it would be easier if we just had a set of rules, like, okay, no, it says, look, guys, hey, man, you signed here on this 15-page thing that you would not do all this stuff. It's like, oh, my bad. You're right. Either fire me or give me another chance. Being in a bar ministry that doesn't have a zero drinking policy or zero smoking policy or zero whatever, then it's like, oh, Lord, can we just Can't we just make it simple? But then who's going to go after? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there are people that won't go to church, don't go to church, that some of these motorcycle ministries and people that I love dearly and support completely, and and they support us and we support them, but they can't reach because even some of them people at the bar go, yeah, uppity motorcycle ministry guys, man, they don't waste drink or smoke or nothing. It's like, that's crazy,
Well, and then you're trying to drag the church into the bar,
right.
In like the negatives of the church that those people perceive,
Right?
Because you mentioned church hurt earlier. Like,
Right.
what do you mean by church hurt?
Oh, church hurt. Yeah, I mean, just people that have, that have gotten crossways with the church, maybe over whatever. It's like there's all kinds of. I mean, from the people who got a divorce and the church backed one of the spouses and asked the other spouse to leave. We've dealt with that. Or, I had a guy. This is crazy, bro. I had a guy come up to me, I don't know, a month ago or two ago, actually about a month ago, and he comes up and he shows up every now and then to Saved Savage, and he says, man, and he hugs me and he says, thanks so much for what you do. He's like, coming from a guy who will never step foot in church again before his funeral, I really love what you do. I was like, oh, thanks, man. I said, but can we rewind a second? Why are you never going to step foot in a church until your funeral? Like, I'm just curious. Not judging you. I'm just curious. And he says, man, I was an associate pastor when I met my wife. And he says, I saw too much. I'll never go back. And I'm like, dang. Like, he saw how the sausage was made, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in his situation. He didn't tell me.
The sausage isn't made that way in every church.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. Now, so that's funny because so I have such empathy for the church hurt, and I deal with them a lot. But at the same time, I have to even guard my tongue that I don't go, really, dude? Like, did you get oilfield construction hurt and leave leave all the line of business? Like, it's like who in the oil field has not been fired misjustly or whatever, unjustly fired? Yeah, everybody. I mean, everybody
screwed over.
Yeah, you've been screwed over and fired. You didn't leave that vocation. You just found another company. Mm-hmm. So I do feel for that, and we do deal with that, and I do it respectfully and lovingly. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, I'm not too like, oh, the church is all bad. It's like, no, the church is full of people. That's the problem I have with the church. The church would be great if it wasn't full of people. I mean, it's a joke.
I mean, people are the thing.
It's a joke,
that screw stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, God's great. People suck, including me.
And it isn't. I mean, the goal is to get people out of the bar and going to a church.
Absolutely, and we do, we do. And it gets frustrating. I was on the phone with a brother of mine. When you walked up, and that was a lot of the conversation. It was like, well, so and so's been going here a long time. Like, when's he gonna straighten up back? I don't know. I'm not God.
Yeah.
Like, we can plant and water, and we can even put up a like a certain light, a UV light, and try. But the fact is it's up to God and Him, them. I mean, that's whatever they do, they do. It's like, we can pray and we can sow and we can lift them up and encourage them, but it kind of freaks me out too, but it's just the way it is. But then again, it's like, man, I've had people come up and say, so-and-so, it's been a long time, so-and-so's still doing this or whatever. What about this? So what about their relationship? What do you think the nature of their relationship is? I'm like, I don't know. Have you asked them? No, I haven't asked them. I'm asking you. I'm like, so you basically want me to go ask them if they're sleeping together and all? Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. Do you mind opening your laptop and typing in your passcode and let me check your search history? I mean, if we're gonna,
pull the beam out of you. Pull the beam out of your own eye
if we're gonna do that,
your
if we're gonna go, because some people sin openly and some people sin privately.
Yeah.
I almost respect the ones that do it openly. There's a Cody Jinks song, and in the Cody Jinks songs, he says, little old John. I'm butchering it, but the gist of it is like old John's all nestled up at the bar, and he's drinking, and he's laughing about all you drinking at home alone, Mm-hmm. So it's like it's like. Because some people just drink privately and some people drink publicly, and it's like
it's cheaper to drink privately.
Yeah,
alcohol's expensive at the bar.
Oh man, the people that drink at the bar, I mean, they're not there for the drinking.
No, it's
and that's something that people need to understand too. They're not. I mean, a real drunk that's just drinking for the buzz. Yeah, man, you're gonna buy the cheapest crap you can in a plastic bottle, and never leave the house. That's what when you're full blown out there, you're doing that, or every can is full of stuff. I mean, the people that are going to the bars, even though they're drinking too much, or and they may be dependent. I'm not I'm not condoning it, but they're there for family, and they get it. Mm-hmm. When they go down, when they wreck their bike, that bar throws a benefit for them. Mm. My pastor, he'd never even talked to me about this, but he knows what I do, and he's very supportive. But I remember one day he was preaching about that. He says, we got to do a better job as the church. He says, because these bars, he said, man, you don't drive by one of these bars around here and not see a sign for a benefit, or on their Facebook, and they're raising money for somebody who's sick, or went down on their bike, or has cancer, or their kids has a problem, and they go for those communities, man. I mean, it's humbling, as a Christian who goes to church, like myself, who actively as active as I can be in a church, way more active when I wasn't doing the ministry. I still attend, but it's like I can't really sign up for anything because I'm full blown in the stuff I've got. But I mean, it's humbling, man. Like, it's humbling. These bars, they are family. They do stick together, a lot of them, and there's something, and there's there's an element of that in our ministry that rolls into our ministry with Saved Savage. We had a guy that just had a fire, burned up everything, including his dog and his Harley, and
his dog and his Harley.
Yeah, it's horrible, man. It's horrible. And I mean, we're talking yesterday morning. While he was at the hospital in the emergency room, I'm getting calls going, hey, we got to throw him a benefit for him and his family. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about, So I reached out and we started, starting organizing it, And that's, how quick would that happen at a church,
It depends on the church.
I mean, it really depends. I mean, I'm sure it'd happen, but.
Like our church has a benevolence fund for when people need.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of churches do.
Yeah. But you got a cool church.
It's a pretty cool church.
Yeah, there's some churches.
There's a reason we go there.
Yeah. And and then again, the churches also, they take care of theirs, but not necessarily everyone else. And I mean, again, I'm not against churches. I mean, totally not. I'm just saying it's very humbling being around the bars, because I went into the bar ministry thinking it would be one thing, and I found out it was totally something
Isn't that
else.
Always the way it works, though?
Yeah, totally.
With almost everything?
Absolutely. Nothing is ever what you think it's going to be. Ever. I've never had anything that was like, oh, this is exactly from the burger that looks like that and you get this to the ministry that you think it's going to be this, or to the career that you think,
But generally the burger on the sign looks better than the one you get. I'm hoping the ministry is better than the one you thought it would be.
No, the ministry is well, I'm not. I mean, better, more fulfilling for sure. But no, way harder than I thought, I mean, in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, in ways it's easier. It's the easiest thing I've ever done. Like, God really has been graceful like that. But heartache, and oh man, like, it's crazy. My pastor told me, he said, man, if God didn't tell you to do this, don't do it. He said, you don't know how personal it's going to get. You don't know the hurts and the
Well, I think especially too since you're not structured like an MC, you're just a ministry that's staying somewhat unstructured. Like who's in charge?
Right.
I mean, because you're the founder, but who's in charge?
I mean, we do have tribes. I mean, we are starting to. We kind of have we have leaders in the tribes, but we were like for instance, it's so funny. We we don't know if we're going to call them clerks or chiefs. I want to call them chiefs. Somebody wants to call them clerks because in the corporation sometimes they're in some business, churches wise that's kind of the president or whatever. And I'm like, that don't sound like
official
president.
Terms.
That don't sound like a president. And I want to call them chiefs, but some people want to call them clerks. And I'm like, but then some people think of a clerk like you're just a clerk. Like, no, they're the freaking leader. So it's kind of
a term of authority.
Yeah, so it's
you don't want pastors,
huh?
You don't want pastors?
No, because that's a church. I don't want a pastor. I mean, there's a whole set of rules for a pastor. Pastor can't drink. Pastors,
Oh, he's not to be given to drink.
Well, see. Okay, now we're talking. So
His interpretation.
So me and one of my brothers that we often break out the Bible and debate. He was like, "No, pastors shouldn't drink at all." And I was like, "Show me." And he's like, "Oh, okay, well, it's right here." He said, "But I'm going to back up and read the whole chapter." I'm going to, "Please do." And he goes through and reads it. He goes, and it's like, because it's talking about deacons in that same chapter. It says like deacons shouldn't be given to drunkenness or something, or given to alcohol. I don't remember. But then like basically he said, but when it got to the, like it's worded slightly different for the pastor. And he's like, "See?" I was like, "No, that still does not mean he can't drink." The one is much wine and the other one is given to or whatever. And I'm like, no.
Well, it means something when you I would interpret that when you give yourself to something.
Yeah.
Again, you're pledging allegiance to
See, I like your interpretation. And I agree with your interpretation. In fact, you and I often agree with interpretations.
We do.
Like it's pretty uncanny actually, because so a lot of we agree more than we disagree. But we also agree more than we disagree, I think, because we're both pretty open-minded. Like we don't assume that we're right. That's the worst part about religion.
It's one of those things I struggle with a little bit, because it's like when you I know this. I know this to be true. And I'm like, well, we believe this. Yeah. There's a reason that we're different from angels. Angels know God. Right. We believe and have faith in God.
Oh, I like that.
Unless you've truly had that direct experience. But even then,
it's for you. But
but it's also,
and it could be a personal revelation.
Yeah,
and it could be a personal revelation.
That's the other thing, is your revelation is not my revelation.
That's right.
You can't expect someone else to believe. Your revelation is not my fact.
Right. Yeah. It's your fact.
Yeah.
Like if you have a revelation, that is your fact now. Like God revealed this to you. But with so much of Christianity is God revealed this to me, so hey, you need to stop doing that.
And even with like I always say, there's only two lawgivers in the Bible: Moses and Jesus.
Right.
Nobody else. Even Paul is not a lawgiver.
Right.
Paul interprets the law. He gives good advice.
Yeah.
But he's more like Solomon
right.
than he is like Moses.
Right.
And you have to kind of keep that in that perspective. And also, when you're reading most of Paul, those are it's someone else's mail you're reading. Those are epistles to churches for specific things at specific times.
Man, we have talked about that, because you and I have talked about that, because it just trips me out. Everybody'd be like, women got to be silent in church because the Apostle Paul said it. I'm like, well, yeah, but he was writing to the Corinth or whoever, whatever church. Like maybe they had some rowdy bitches.
Yeah.
He's just like, yo, women got to be quiet.
Yeah.
And maybe he didn't mean for all eternity. I don't know.
Yeah, there could have been a lot of gossip flowing, and who knows what. We don't know what was going on.
Exactly.
But we know they had a problem.
Well, even that with cursing and stuff, like people talk about, things coming out of your mouth, and a lot of the stuff they quote, it's like, okay, does it mean that, or does it mean gossip?
Yeah.
Does it mean,
Well, even the word, we use the word cursing or swearing.
Right.
Really, it's profanity.
Yeah.
You're saying things that are profane, deemed so by society, but you're not, a curse is a very specific thing.
Yeah.
And so is swearing, taking an oath.
Right.
It's more akin to.
Yeah, totally. So
again, my perspective on language is words are tools, and words do not have inherent moral value. It's how you use them.
Right.
That matters.
Right.
but
just like crystals.
Well, maybe. I mean, again, I don't think crystals are harmful, and they have some application. But
I'm only joking. I'm not pro crystal.
Whether the energy in the room or the crystal you're wearing around your neck does something for you, I've yet to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who preaches at Saved Savage Sunday services?
We cast lots.
You cast lots?
No.
I
just thought it'd be. I just thought it'd be funny.
I've been to a few, and I've yet to see someone like y'all are pulling them out of a hat.
No, I just thought it'd be funny because that somewhat biblical in the New Testament.
Yeah, and then you force the people who aren't ready to give a sermon to get up there and give a sermon.
Ooh, hey, you Saved Savages hear that? We're going to start casting lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a test every week. I wonder how long it'd be before like it dwindles down to 3 people showing up. If there was a chance they'd have to speak. No, we try to be Spirit led by that. Like, so, the leaders, like kind of the pastor of that. I don't like saying that, but one, like for instance,
the person in the pastoral position.
Yeah, in the pastoral position, they kind of handle that. I mean, it's been all over the place because we've had leaders leave and we've had new people take over, and then we've had like the leaders up here that actually would kind of help like establish that because they're kind of didn't have a job and was listening to God type of thing, and had the time to really pray about it and devote it. But now pretty much it's the pastoral position or the president type position that picks. And it could be them, like Pastor Don. That's why we call him Pastor, not because he's the pastoral position, although he is. He's also, has been a pastor for a lot of his life. So for years of his life. So, he will usually pick, who that's going to be. And a lot of times it's him, but, sometimes it's somebody who he's had their eye on, he has, whatever the Lord has deemed, that they should talk or they should speak, or somebody, will come forward. Hey, I have a message. I'd love to. Oh, what do you got? Oh, I got this. Oh, I think that would be great. So, so it's kind of all over the place. It's not because it's not a church.
Yeah.
There's 2 bar churches, well, 3, I guess, but two bar churches that we deal with. One that we kind of spawned, like the Pirate Church, the Saltwater Pirate Church. I don't know. Anyway, Saltwater Revival Pirate Church. They kind of spawned off of us, like quite a few Saved Savages are over there, and I believe it's like normally Jordan or Pastor Rick, and they were Saved Savages, and now they're over there doing that, and but I think they have have a guest every now and then, but that's the same place every week. The same, so it's a little more of a church.
It's a little more structured.
And then like this weekend we'll be at Shifters and Broken Clay Fellowship there, where it's normally Pastor Mark Mears. It was a home church that now is a bar church. So again, it's a little more like that. But there's with Saved Savage, it's kind of. Again, it's so unstructured. Yeah.
Well,
right.
the ones I've been to, like you'll have a worship service with a couple songs, and then someone will give up and talk for 10 to 15 minutes, and then they'll just who else has a word next gets up.
Yeah, we normally we know in advance most of the time who's going to speak. So it's like, hey, this
So they text you ahead of time and say,
hey, by Thursday, it's kind of the rule. Hey, we need to know who's giving the word, and so and so is going to do this, so and so is going to give a testimony, or hey, they're going to do this, and hey, Randall, would you come up and follow him up, or whatever, and things like that. So yeah, and if I'm going to be in town, they'll want me to come up there, and sometimes.
So do you hear any crazy sermonettes? Unexpected.
Oh gosh, yeah. So I'll go ahead and tell this one because it was so it caused the ministry some friction. And probably even damage, but like I hold no grudge. I mean, I love the guy who did it, and loved him when he did it, and disagreed with it. But we had a guy come up, and it's so interesting because he's the guy who did our video and stuff, and he he's a Lutheran, like he comes from the Lutheran. So, and he's like, he just, not the most saved savage. Like he's
Gotcha.
just, he's like he's a realtor. He's a good dude, man. Like a big Astros fan. Like we just love, like he's just, but he's not like
he wasn't as savage.
I didn't worry about him getting in a fist fight at the bar, anyway, so I think he had actually quit. He got mad and quit, but over something else, just over Facebook stuff. It was crazy because somebody had taken over my Facebook, and then they quit, and we had to hijack all the Facebooks back. And when I did, I'm like, okay, well, make everybody, had to name everybody. Well, they can't do this. Nobody can do this. I don't need them to be. Can they just be a whatever and not where they can't do this to me again? Mm-hmm. But they'll still be able to post, and like, yeah, they'll still be able to post. Well, come to find out, like moderators can't post, or whatever. They can't go live stream or whatever. So anyway, so he got upset, but he was kind of already, I think, on the way out. And anyway, we talked about it, like everything was cool, And then he came back and he had a sermon, that the next week. And I said, I have this sermon I want to do. And they said, okay, go up there. And I don't know, it was like a 6-minute sermon that was based on something he had saw on TikTok. And it was like, F around and find out, And so he does this thing, but he says
uncensored.
Uncensored, F around, find out. And it was just so funny. I mean, looking back, it was horrible. At the time, it was just such a horrible, painful thing for so many people. But I look back and I go, and I called him up and I said, hey, man, saw your sermon. He's like, oh, yeah. What'd you think? I said, man, it would have been one of the best Saved Savage sermons of all time. Like, it was really good. Like, it was a good Saved Savage sermon. Had you just said F around and find out, and it was just like, it was yeah. So he dropped like 7 F-bombs in like 6 minutes or something. It was crazy, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, that was so unexpected too, and it's so funny because if anybody else, like, it was the thing was it was so unexpected from him. That was what my visceral reaction, I guess. I don't even think it was visceral, but
he's not the one who expected.
My strong reaction, like, dude, what? Why? Like, and it's like, I mean, honestly, if so and so would have came up there and done that, I'd have been like, God, don't give him the mic no more. Like, hey, bro, tone it down a little bit. So like at that point, I was like, well. I can't believe I'm going to have to do this, but I'm establishing a new rule: no F-bombs from the pulpit.
So you do have. There's one rule.
Yeah. So I kind of dropped it to, we encourage no F-bombs, and that other rule. We really have 2 rules, like, and they're really more encouragements, because they're not hardcore, but they're guidelines, that no one ministers that has been drinking. So, like, we don't have a 0 drinking policy, but we have a 0 drinking while ministering.
Gotcha.
So, like, if you're gonna come up and deliver a message, don't drink until afterwards. Don't have
Seems
a beer.
Wise.
Yeah, and that's really just I mean, it's just because it's just unwise to get loose and do that. And the Lord had told me that early on, like 3 weeks, 4 weeks in, because I would go the first service or 2 or 3. I'd go in, give me a salty dog, just vodka grapefruit juice, and I'd take me a sip and I'd do my sermon thing, and then AWOL was in by like the 3rd time, and then we're splitting that thing, and I'm just like speaking for a little bit, and then he's speaking he's really preaching because he's a good preacher. And then, I was just I'm in the Word one morning, and I ran across something that led me, he's like, oh, Lord, I am so sorry. Like, I did not know I wasn't supposed to drink and do that. Like, so should I stop, period? Like I can't drink at all, or just before? And I felt that he was saying, no, just before, do not, you know. I'm like, okay, I need to tell everybody? He goes, am I talking to everybody right now? I was like, no, don't have to be a smart aleck about it, but no, you're just talking to me. You know, that's the way God, you know, I don't know why, but probably my personality, the way I hear it, or whatever. But he was like, I'm not talking to everybody else. I'm talking to you. I'm like, okay, so, sir, I'm sorry. Like, I will not do it anymore. And then it was about a year before I said, hey guys, I've been feeling it for the last couple months, and you know, I don't believe any of us should drink before we go up and touch that microphone. And we had a table meeting back then. We had once a month. We'd have like the people called the table. It was like 6 or 7 of us, 8 of us. And I thought, well, I was going to divide the ministry. I thought, like, for sure when I dropped, I was so nervous about that meeting. I was like, oh, I'm going to say this, and everybody's going to leave. They're going to be like, here we go, religion, you know. Totally not. 100% unanimous. Every one of them said, I think that's a great idea. In fact, had people repenting and saying, you know what, I am so sorry. Like I've come over and I've come in hungover or stoned or drunk or whatever, and went up there and I can't believe I did it. You know, it was amazing.
So well received.
Completely brought us together instead of what I had feared. So yeah, but had I done it in the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, it probably would have crushed the ministry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I do believe that. I think if I'd have done that back then, everybody left.
Yeah.
So you know, it just takes lets everybody mature more, and I think that's why God doesn't let me do a 0 drinking policy. That way, people can feel comfortable coming in, having a drink, being drunk, whatever, and listening to the word and having their unchurchy church service. You know.
Well, you have people who wouldn't show up.
Absolutely.
They couldn't, and they wouldn't be able to grow.
Absolutely, because they know that they can show up hungover or drunk, and we're not going to judge them.
Yeah.
You know. Now, you know, once they start wearing that patch,
you don't expect them to keep coming in.
Right. Once once they progress and they start wearing that patch and all that kind of stuff, or they want to give a word, then they know, okay, I can't drink and give a word. And then they're like, wait a minute, if I can't drink and give a word, maybe I shouldn't be drinking and praying for people. And then, you know, it just kind of, I think it lets people, you know, I mean, it just lets people grow at a different pace.
The Christian motto, come as you are.
Yeah.
But you need to add on there, but you can't stay as you are. You don't need to stay as you are.
Yeah.
Like it's about growth.
I mean, technically, you know, technically you can, I guess.
Well, yeah, but that's not the goal. Like if you're growing in Christ, you're going to be You're going to be made a better person.
We don't encourage it. We don't want it. That's not what we want. It's not healthy. You know, it's not healthy for any of us. But you know, like I say, I can't believe I become that guy. Sometimes I'm just, even in our ministry, I'm just like, slow down, guys. Like, give them some time. Give them some time. I can't believe I've become the guy that's more patient than some of the others. That just blows me away because I'm the most impatient. I spent my whole life being the most impatient person ever.
Yeah. And
now I'm just like, all right, be patient. You know.
So what fruit have you seen?
Fruit?
Yeah.
Oh man, we got some good bananas. No. I mean, dude, there are hundreds. So there's the whole like. So early on, I was like, instantly, it was like, wow. If my whole life, good and bad, was lived, the tragedy, the pain, and everything, just to baptize this one person, or to pray for this one person and them change their life or whatever, it was worth it. Like, I remember like thinking when I really realized that there was like 3 or 4, you know, I was like, wow, if my whole life was worth this person, this person, this person, this person now being where they're at in life, it was worth it. All the pain and everything. Take me now. Now there's hundreds of those ones. Hundreds. Like, I mean, I'm just like, wow, you know. I mean, in the last 3.5 years, you know, most of them in the ministry, but also even just, man, like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy, you know, walk into a bar and have some guy that's playing pool through our whole service, walks out a couple times, comes back in, walks up at the end of service and says, "Hey, you mind if I say something?" I'm like, no, like, because I just told everybody, like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to give people the mic until we cut the Facebook feed. Because I've almost hit somebody in the back of the head, like punch for, if the Facebook feed had not been going, I probably would have clipped them, like what they were saying, but I'm like, I can't do that. It's on Facebook. It's be forever, and I was like, so we can't we got to cut because we can't have people just rambling on with crazy stuff, And I said, we're not going to do that. And then sure enough, I see one of my brothers go, yeah, pointed him up to me. I'm like, really, bro? Like, you should have said no, but the guy comes up. He says, can I say something? I was like, he says, look, I'll be real respectful. I'm not going to, I just want to say something really quick. I was like, okay. Handing the microphone, he goes, we call ourselves Christians. I'm like, oh my God. Lord help me, Lord help me. I'm going to hit this guy. I'm going to break him off in front of the whole world right now. And it's like, please, 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 God, stop this. Please, because, and he says, we come in here, we do this. He says, but that little girl behind the bar is, looks like she's 8 months pregnant. And he says, so do we love? Do we give? He says, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to tip her $100. And I encourage y'all to go over and take care of her too. That's it. I was like, okay, well, normally at this time I say, don't forget to tip your bartenders and waiters, but
yeah,
amen, Anyway, so I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I didn't have to kill this dude in front of me. I was because I was so gun shy because we'd had some stuff happen where I'm like, no, we ain't having this happen. Anyway, people are going, who is this guy? Oh, I never want to be around this supposedly Christian. But anyway, that's my thought. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, don't let me hit this person.
Well, it's your actions.
Yeah, well, but anyway, so in my mind, that's what I was. And then anyway, so that day we had finished a fast, like a bunch of us were fasting. So I was like, oh wow, our fast is finished. They're like, we're going to lunch. I'm like, I'm going to have a cocktail. So I walked in, ordered me a salty dog or something, and I'm right next to this guy. And the guy says, put it on my tab. And I was like, oh, thanks, bro. Like, so I said, well, man, what brings you here and all this? He goes, well, he says, I got up this morning. I said, Siri, find me a local bar. I said, oh, you're not a regular here? He said, nope. He said, and I walked in and the bartender says, oh, are you here for the church thing? And I said, what? No, I'm not here for a church thing. What are you talking about? She said, oh, over there. And she points to our banner. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. About that time we walk in. So he's just like, not wanting to just leave and all this stuff. But he's like, I couldn't believe it. He says, I said, oh, man, well, I'm sorry, dude. I mean, he said, no. I said, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm glad you're here. It's what we come here for. Excuse me. And he says, I was a pastor until 9 years ago when my daughter killed herself. And then I left the church, left God, all that. He said, this morning I just said, Siri, find me a
pick the
bar.
random bar.
Find me a bar close. He said, I came here, I've never been here before. And God bushwhacked me. I mean, bro, it's my whole life's worth that. My whole life.
So it's safe in saying that you have no doubts that you're doing the right thing.
It's the only thing I don't doubt. Sometimes Americanic's so hard. I'm going, God, are you just like, is this hard because I'm doing it and like I'm all kinds of things. I'm just like, Lord, did I miss you? But I never do that on Saved Savage. Never. It's heavy and hard and,
sure.
Stuff that goes on in people's lives that are just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, like I say, boom, oh, so-and-so's house just burnt down, they lost everything. It's like, oh my God, just heart-wrenching stuff all the time.
People, that stuff happens.
People getting divorced, people, yeah, exactly.
But you have a structure. We said it's not a structure, but you have a structure there that like helps people.
Bro,
a community.
I will leave you with something tragically funny. I don't know if we're wrapping it up, but I remember this one time. There was one of the Saved Savage guys got a divorce, or he left his wife, and then this and then like the next day, this other Saved Savage guy is staying at his house, like his bike's parked in his driveway, and I was like, oh my God. So of course it's getting around. It's like, hey, so and so moved out, so and so moved in. Like, oh my God, these are both Saved Savage guys, And I was like, oh my God. So I call some of the people. I was like, look, we gotta deal with this, or it's gonna get ugly. I mean, like either one of them it wouldn't surprise me if either one of them killed each other, over something like that. I mean, these are straight up Saved Savages, And so call them to the back, and anyway, we try to talk it out. It really ends really badly, and really, one of them's kind of gone for a long time, and it's sort of calmed down now, But and who knows if, like, I'm not even saying he was sleeping with her. He says he wasn't. He probably wasn't. I don't know. It looked shady, but anyway, it was just it was just an awkward play. Like, it's not the point. The point is like we me and my wife drive away, and I'm like, I cannot believe that I have to deal with something like this. And she says, I don't understand. Kate, my wife. She's like, I'm like, I mean, I can't believe so and so was over there at so and so's house after he left. So she's like, that stuff happens in the world all the time. She's like, yeah? She's like, and you have a bar ministry. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm surprised it hadn't happened before now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, I mean, just stuff like that. I mean, you just, stuff you have to deal with. But, but I love both of them. I love both of them. I don't even know who's right, wrong, or I love both of them dudes.
Yeah.
Probably both of them would take a knife or a gun for me. They're good dudes.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever get along again.
I don't know. Well, if anyone wants to find Saved Savage, where do they go?
Oh, SaveSavageMinistries.com. Or on Facebook. I think every way you type in Saved Savage, there's probably, because there's Saved Savage Sunday Service, Saved Savage Ministries, Saved Savage Bay Area, Saved Savage Pineywood, Saved Savage Friday Nights. There's all kinds of Saved Savages on Facebook and stuff. Yeah. Probably on Instagram and all. I don't think we've really done Instagram or Twitter. We don't keep up with it, that's for sure. But all that, and then SaveSavageMinistries.com. You can check and see where we're having services there. You can buy merchandise. You can, I don't know, look at the calendar, all that stuff.
Support the ministry.
You can support the ministry. That'd be great. Because believe it or not, the bar ministry does not have a big collections at the end of every Sunday service. I mean, go figure. Thought it would have been a money.
Sounds like you'd rather them tip the bartender and the waiter than
absolutely. I mean,
church service.
We're not in it for the money. I mean, not at all. I mean, but it does take money to run it.
Sure.
It does take. We're always having to do stuff. It's just we run, and we're putting. We're going to where people don't even really want us to be sometimes. I mean, the bar owners obviously let us be there or invite us, but it doesn't mean, the people at the bar are like, oh, let me go give $100 tip. Or, let me throw some in the basket so that these people, because I sure appreciate them coming here and disturbing my drunk. But so that, and then,
Awesome.
And then Americonic.com.
Yeah, if you want to check that out too.
Check out
Full disclosure, that benefits me as well. So,
I mean, it
benefits all.
At this point, it doesn't.
I know.
I don't know that it benefits us. It's
certainly a labor of love.
It's a labor of love. So,
but it's a desire to change the culture.
Absolutely,
provide an alternative to.
Absolutely, and actually, if you go
Hollywood 40 years,
and actually, if you really want to support Save Savage monthly, And the best way is to actually, probably the easiest way. I don't know about the best way. Above and beyond would be great, but a good start is to subscribe to Americonic.com and type in. It'll force you to it'll prompt you to type in a promo code and type in Saved Savage, and then that will help support Saved Savage Ministries and Americonic.
Monthly,
so monthly.
Yeah, a portion of your subscription would go to Saved
a sizable portion. We have a better deal than most. God does. It's not me.
So, well, awesome. Thanks for coming in, Randall.
Man, dude, it's awesome. It's like I say, it's a road trip. We got to stop and get gas. We had to stop and pee.
Yeah.
On this road trip.
Yep. All right. We'll catch y'all later.
All right. God bless y'all.